Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Walter Ferguson. I'm pleased to welcome you to the New York Public Library this afternoon. Yes, make some noise for the library. That's what I like to hear. And welcome to the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Library and our beautiful 7th floor event space. We're glad you could find us today. We have a really exciting event planned today. We've got Navigating the Digital Age for a Healthier You, an author talk and health expo planned for the day. So we have a lot of really great speakers lined up today. I hope you can stick around, check out the tables, hear from a lot of exciting experts and practitioners from across the healthcare industry. And before we get started, I want to kick it over to my colleague, TJ Woods, to say a little more.
Down a little bit. Hi, everyone. We are delighted to have you here with us today. As Walter said, my name is TJ Woods, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Associate Director for the Tech Connect team here at the New York Public Library. If you don't know, Tech Connect offers more than 100 technology classes, both online and in person, in multiple languages, at libraries throughout the Bronx, Staten Island, and right here in Manhattan. All of them are absolutely free. It's high and low tech. We even have a studio. We hope that you will enroll in some of our classes and we'll be promoting them as they are aligned with the programs we have today. Specifically, we are focusing on our Take Charge with My Chart series, which was the catalyst for all the events today. A little bit about that. At the height of the pandemic, the use of telehealth services increased significantly. And we wanted to create classes and events and programs to help all New Yorkers so that they can be more informed and access those resources equitably. The importance of technology for managing health cannot be understated. So before we dive into all of the fun stuff we have for you, I want to take a moment to thank the New York Community Trust for their generous support in making this event happen today and all of our other tech health initiatives. I'd also like to thank my team. They make magic happen every day. You know who you are. They do the lifting, the lugging, the organizing. All of this is them. They're magical. And then a special big thank you to Walter Ferguson over here, who is your MC for the day. He is the creative powerhouse behind our Take Charge with My Chart series, as well as today's program. I hope that you all leave here today feeling empowered to take charge of your own health. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, TJ. We are so glad that you all are here this afternoon. As TJ said, we have a lot of exciting things here at the New York Public Library, and we're especially glad that you're here today. As some of you may have seen in the news this week, the library is facing hard times, so your participation and your attendance in this event is extremely helpful. Letting the folks know that the library is important and that you like our services is very helpful in convincing the folks who fund these programs. So we're glad you're here. And as TJ said, we have a lot of exciting classes here at the New York Public Library, including our Take Charge with My Chart classes. If you haven't used My Chart before, it is a patient portal and we partnered with the Mount Sinai Health System to get a patient portal version for our classes. And you should definitely check it out. It will make your life easier. You can use it to refill your prescriptions, to schedule and attend virtual visits, download your test results, and a lot of things like that. So do check out our classes if you're interested in learning more about that. We have all sorts of resources we would love to share with you. And we have more information in the back in case you're curious, you want to learn even more. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Well, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and start this program. Can you advance to the next slide, please? Yes, we have an exciting program today. This is our virtual program. Please check it out. You can scan this QR code with your phone. You can access the hyperlink by typing it into your internet browser. You can check our full schedule for the day. So check that out. All right, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first speaker, Dr. Emeran. With 35 years of experience studying the clinical and neurobiological aspects of how the digestive system and the nervous system interact in health and disease. He is a pioneer of medical research in mind-gut interactions and has received numerous awards, including the Distinguished Mentor Award from the American Gastroenterological Association, the Ismar Boas Medal from the German Society for Gastroenterology and Metabolic Disease, and the 2016 David McLean Award from the American Psychosomatic Society. Dr. Meyer's current research focuses on the role of gut microbiota brain interactions and has expanded to include emotion regulation, chronic visceral pain, food addiction and obesity, cognitive decline, and autism spectrum disorders. He has published multiple best-selling books based on his research, including The Mind-Gut Connection, The Gut-Immune Connection, and his newest release, The Mind-Gut Immune Connection. Dr. Mayer will share about his current research in microbiome science and the technological advancements that have enabled his pioneering research. Please welcome Dr. Emeran Mayer.
Thanks, Walter, for this kind introduction. And I'd like to thank the organizers and Walter for inviting me to this special event, my first time at the New York Public Library. It's always, I'll take any excuse to come to New York. It's always fun to be here, particularly this event. I've never been inside this building. And this didn't take me long to decide that I wanted to accept the invitation. So disclosures, I'm not going to recommend any products or anything. I actually will not advertise. Integrative health, then a quick rundown on what we understand about the brain-gut microbiome system. Spend a little bit more time on these bidirectional communications within the brain-gut microbiome system. So I like to call it a system, as you'll see from my talk. It's not just an axis, it's actually multiple loops that connect our brain with the gut and the microbes. Talk about diet and lifestyle. And then end with this One Health concept. So I've migrated through this journey from being a gastroenterologist who has always been interested in brain-gut interactions, but I had no idea about diet, nutrition, didn't pay much attention to lifestyle. It's not things you're trained in as a gastroenterologist. And I've come all the way to environmental health, and you'll see why that is. So this is what the microbiome science has taught me, that all these things are interconnected. Started out when I first came to UCLA, actually because of this man, John Walsh, who was sort of a famous person, one of the developers of a technique, radioimmunoassay, that allowed us to measure small molecules like so-called neuropeptides in the gut. And at the time, we were analyzing, or I was in this lab analyzing tissues from enormous amounts of intestine to even supernatants from culture supernatants where microbes had been grown. And we were all after the same target, these molecules that were discovered in the gut, these initially called gut peptides. So they've become a household name now, GLP-1, for example, or GIP. These were the substances that we discovered at the time. Nobody knew really what they were doing. So today, it took about 35 years before we have the practical implications. And the explanation that we had about gut hormones within a few years, it went from the gut to the brain because other investigators found the same molecules in the brain. And then at the end of my time in the lab, we also found the same in these microbial culture media. So the microbes, the gut and the brain produce the same molecules. And that led me to writing a paper very early in my career. I'm still surprised if it got published, entitled "Can Regulatory Peptides Be Regarded as a Word of a Universal Biological Language?" The answer is yes. We know this today more than ever. And so my mentor told me, yeah, you're about 20 years ahead of our current evidence with your concepts, but you can give it a try. And we did get it published. So I'm really proud of this. And if you look at what has happened in our understanding of the interactions of the brain with the body and with the gut, it's, if you look at this 1926, this drawing of a human body, there's almost no brain in there. And the whole thing was based on the steam engine concept that the gut is there to process and absorb nutrients that are important for our metabolism. There was no connection to anything up in our head. Then during my initial research, really focused on these brain-gut interactions based on the discovery of these peptides in the brain and the gut. We came up with this concept of brain-gut interactions. At the time, nobody was really interested in that. It was very hard to get anything published and speak at scientific meetings. We're always challenged by people, by gastroenterology audiences who said, well, forget about the brain. We're gastroenterologists, and it's really the gut that's important. And then, to my amazement, so there were a lot of things that were surprising to me, and it's always been sticking with this initial concept that I was able to assemble a group of the cutting-edge biological psychiatrists, traditional or practitioners of traditional healthcare systems like Ayurveda and the traditional Chinese medicine, Native American healers. And we got all these people together locked up in a hotel in a place in Sedona for 4 days and brainstormed and practiced. Like, there was a lot of meditation going on and on this topic and produced this book. This symposium was financed by a philanthropist who I'm still thankful today for making this possible. So this was 23 years ago. Again, way ahead of the current enthusiasm about brain-gut interactions and gut health. So then came the microbiome revolution. About 10, 15 years ago now, people really started to look at the microbes living in our gut not as pathogens or invaders or harmful substances, but as an ecosystem with health benefits for a variety of physiological and biological functions. And to just give you a few numbers here about the vastness of that microbial ecosystem on a planetary scale. So there's 5 nonillion. I didn't really know what this means, but it's 1 followed by 54 zeros. Bacteria live in the Earth's ecosystem, including the ones found in our large intestine. And that means everything on this planet has its own microbial ecosystem, from the oceans of the world have the biggest part of it, but every part of our body, skin, mouth, eyes, animals, soil, everything has its own microbial ecosystem. The beauty is that these ecosystems, I'll come back to this at the end, they're all in some ways interconnected. There's interactions between these different populations of invisible inhabitants of the planet. Microbes are the oldest and most abundant life form on the planet. They've been around for more than 4 billion years. The second biggest biomass on Earth, 70 gigatons, only surpassed by plants. And microbes make up 75% of the marine biomass. It's not the whales or any other fish. It's the microbes. So this is sort of something I think we've forgotten because we don't see them. We can't, unless we get sick, we don't really know what they're doing. It's this invisible, gigantic ecosystem that has a big influence on health, on everything on the planet, including our own health. So if you look at the gut microbiome, it's the highest density of microbes in the human colon anywhere on the planet. There's 100 trillion microorganisms making up about 40% of the cells that our human bodies are made up. There's this term holobiont. It means that the microbes inside of us have lived in symbiosis with our own cells for a million years. And there's mutually beneficial interactions between the host, us, and the gut microbiome, where they influence everything from human physiology, metabolism, nutrition, and immune function. And we're just scratching at the surface of this phenomenon. I think there's exponential growth of publications in all these different areas. So one thing I also have to emphasize, there has been a revolutionary change in our understanding of the gut. It's not this digestive tube that is primarily there to break down and absorb our nutrition and produce acid and store the waste materials. We've gone from this initial concept that, like when I started my career, just a couple of cells, a couple of peptides, to this picture, and you don't need to look at the details. But in the meantime, we know that about 70% of the gut of the body's immune system is located in the gut, and immune cells that go to the lungs, for example, they travel through this gut-based immune system and are influenced by that. It's the biggest hormonal system. It's not just these two hormones that we initially discovered, but if you put them all together, they're spread out throughout the intestine, they will be bigger than the ovaries or the adrenal glands. It's the biggest nervous system outside our brain. There's 150 million neurons, and you probably have heard about this so famous New York scientist, Michael Gershon, has written this book, The Second Brain, some 20 years ago now. So this is when we realized there's all these other systems in our gut that you could almost say like digestion is just one of these many functions. Obviously, we need digestion and nutrient absorption, but all these other functions are equally important for our health. And the gut doesn't do this in isolation, so we can cut the connections. The vagus nerve is a big connection between the gut and the brain. We can cut these connections and put a piece of gut from a guinea pig into a test tube, and it would still have the peristaltic, the contractions that move things through, but it will not be in contact with all the other systems within our body. There's a lot of talk today about a healthy gut. Gut health has become sort of this catchword on the internet. Most people don't even know what they're talking about because they include a sense of well-being. It's not just about digestion, it's just feeling good. And it's easier to say, I'm concerned about my gut health than I'm concerned about my bloating or my fatigue. So then came a couple of really amazing publications. It started, and I'm sure you've heard about this, it's made into the lay press, that you could transplant fecal material from a mouse with a certain genetically determined behavior trait, the mouse equivalent of timid or introvert, to a mouse, a so-called germ-free mouse without its own microbiome. And this transplantation, without doing anything else, will turn this recipient of the microbes also into a timid introvert mouse. So this started this, and some of us didn't really believe this at the beginning because we thought we could explain just about every phenomenon just with brain-gut interactions. But then there were a series of studies that kind of confirmed this idea that there's something in our fecal material that most of us don't really want to hear about or talk about. Certainly you can talk about it at a dinner conversation, Today you can, because it's such a fascinating topic. Other studies came that you could transplant, so not just behavior, but also this trait of obesity, the phenotype of obesity. When they transplanted fecal material from an obese subject into mice shown on top that didn't have their own microbiome, then these mice became obese. They also started to eat more, so a phenomenon called hyperphagia. And the control experiment was if you did the same thing with the fecal material from a lean person, nothing happened. So it became pretty clear there's got to be something in the fecal material, something that the microbes do or produce that is responsible for these changes, pretty dramatic changes in the mouse phenotypes. It was all animal experiments. So some of them are mixed. You go from a human donor to a mouse, but there's up to date no study, no evidence that you could do this from humans to humans. So transplanting microbiota from a lean individual into an obese individual, that this person would lose weight or change their eating habits. For ethical reasons, and also because of a phenomenon called colonization resistance, that the microbiome, even if it's not healthy, will not let other microbes settle in it. So up to now, it's not been possible. So then I was more or less talked in by somebody from industry to do a study where we want to test, is this gut microbiome brain communication real? Does it occur in humans? So we did an experiment where we had healthy young women go on a 4-week course of ingesting a probiotic mix in form of a fermented milk product, and looked at their response, standardized test paradigm, looking at these emotionally charged faces, which trigger responses in the brain, in the emotional arousal circuits in the brain. And we found that the women who actually had consumed the meal or the test with 4 or 5 microbes in it had a different response to these emotional images. So this remains one of the very few human studies that have actually confirmed this on a scientific basis, that you can influence the gut microbiome and at the same time have changes in the brain. Now, these were healthy women, so we could not say if this. So they had, as you can see in this diagram from the brain imaging results, they had less connectivity of brain regions of the emotional arousal circuits within the brain. So they responded less to these negative emotionally charged images. So since they were completely healthy, we cannot say if that has had any effect on their anxiety level or. And to my big surprise, I mean, that same company that financed this study, to a big surprise, they actually pushed me to do this. I said at the time, I don't want to do it because we have enough NIH grants. We don't want industry funding for a sort of really questionable study. That same company has been afraid to actually redo these experiments because they're afraid that people would associate the ingestion of yogurt with mind phenomena. Strange attitude, but it hasn't changed. So one thing, we know there's these 100 trillion microbes. That's already impressive, and they're all in our large intestine, some in the end of the small intestine. But what's even much more impressive is the fact of how many genes there are from the microbes. So our human genes are a mere 20,000, as opposed to the microbial genes, up to 20 million genes. So we don't know. So 2 things is interesting. One is we have neglected this vast amount of stored information that these microbes have probably accumulated during billions of years in the oceans and communicating with each other. And the second one is that we've not included this in our models of health and disease. So now this has changed in the last 10 years increasingly, where we are including now and some of these things are proven, others are speculative, that many of our chronic illnesses today, and I'll say a little bit more about it later, have an influence of these microbes in their etiology, ranging from colon cancer to Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease and chronic cardiovascular disease. So you would ask, why are the microbes able, this sort of ancient, primitive life form without obvious intelligence, or definitely not consciousness, why are they able to communicate with the brain, the most sophisticated computer on planet Earth? And so you have to go back in evolutionary history. Microbes, I told you, they're still the dominant life form in the oceans, have existed for more than 3 billion years. The main thing that happened during that time, they learned to communicate with each other, but also later with other life forms, plants particularly, and as I'll show you, with early marine animals. So they had a lot of time to develop this database of these 200 million genes. So then what happened at some point pretty randomly, that some of these microbes were swallowed by these primitive marine animals, the hydra. These were essentially floating digestive tubes with a nerve net wrapped around them, which is the precursor of our enteric nervous system today. It looks almost exactly under the microscope like the circuits in our gut. And inside of that floating digestive tube, so they had free transportation. It was very convenient for the microbes to live there, and they had a constant stream of nutrients. What they did for the animal was that they transferred some of the genes, some of their millions of genes, to the host, and the neurotransmitters that we have found in my early days as an investigator in these gut cells. These were the neurotransmitters that were transferred from the microbes to the hydra, to these nerve nets. And then later, with the development of a polar organism with the brain, these same blueprints for these same neurotransmitters were transported up to the brain and are now the basis of our functioning brains with intelligence and emotions and consciousness. So it's a pretty amazing story that from something that has absolutely nothing to do with intelligence, giving it long enough time in the oceans of the world, that we ended up with the brains that we have today. And it explains why there are communications, important communications in both directions between the gut microbes with their signal, with their language, and our brain. So there has been a exponential increase in our knowledge about what these microbes and what they do with the food that we eat, and what importance this has for our health overall, for our immune system. Just give a very simple, I'll show you a couple of examples. A very simple illustration. So on the left side is the Mediterranean diet pyramid, the food that's optimal for our microbes because it's largely plant-based. That's what they love, the complex carbohydrates, to break them down. They eat them and they turn them into anti-inflammatory molecules. So the microbes feed on these nutrient components and generate hundreds of thousands of metabolites, so smaller compounds that are released into the systemic circulation. So our body is constantly circulating these metabolites that come both from our human cells, from the host, and from the microbes. It's been estimated that about 40% of all these metabolites in our body come from the microbes, come from the gut. So you can imagine what influence this has on every organ that is, which is connected to the systemic circulation, including the brain. Just sort of another illustration of this. So the food that we eat is being broken down into compounds in the gut, shown on the right side. These metabolites, short-chain fatty acids, butyrate, lipids, amino acids, which then interact with the cells shown on the right side, go either into the systemic circulation or interact with the vagus nerve or with the immune system. So this concept of a universal biological language actually was really supported or confirmed by our current understanding of the system. So a little bit more detail of this in terms of the gut microbe brain communication. So the sources for the microbes that they transform into these metabolites, these signaling molecules, there's several. Obviously, diet plays a big role, the fiber, all these large molecules in our diet, polyphenols, antioxidants, the fiber, amino acids, they are transformed by the microbial ecosystem into smaller compounds, which are then make it to the brain and influence brain function. But that's not the only source. There's also the cell wall of the microbes has compounds in it that interact with special receptors that trigger the immune system. So it can trigger an inflammatory response, which then goes into the systemic circulation and reach the brain. It's also something that we call xenobiotics. So all the chemicals that we are exposed to in our modern world, the microbes are able, and also most of our medications, the microbes are able to break them down into other components. So we don't even know what these components are for many of these substances. So for example, glyphosate, which by itself is not harmful for the body because we don't have the enzyme to break it down into the toxic component, but the microbes have it. So all the early studies and approval of glyphosate as a safe compound would have to be redone, taking the microbial ability into account that can transform these into. So you could almost say it's almost like the liver, which can detoxify and process medications. Almost all medications that we take, including antidepressants, SSRIs, are modified by the microbes, change microbial behavior, but more importantly, what are these metabolites, these breakdown products doing to our health? And a wide open field. There's also this what I call host-derived. Most people do not know about this. So estrogens in the blood are so they're produced by the ovaries. They're then metabolized in the liver, so they're being excreted through the bile into the small intestine, where the microbes encounter these modified estrogens, and they can further metabolize them into absorbable compounds. So many of these estrogens, depending on what microbiome you have, will make it back into the systemic circulation. This is something that's been studied with female cancers that are hormone dependent, but also in the postmenopausal state. So the levels of estrogens that a woman has in her blood have to do to a significant degree about the ability of her particular microbiome in salvaging them and reshuttling them back into the circulation. So you can imagine the impact of all of this is pretty amazing. And as I said in the beginning, we know about 10% of that, what goes on in this diagram. So another one, so tryptophan, essential amino acid. A lot of people have taken tryptophan supplements because they think it's health promoting. So this is on the right side. It shows what the microbes can do with this tryptophan. 95% of our serotonin overall in the body is actually produced and stored in the gut, in these endocrine cells in the gut. 5% make it up into the brain and become a very important neurotransmitter regulating everything from appetite to sleep to well-being. But also some of these other compounds, canurenine and indoles, which have both negative and positive effects on our health. And the ratio between those two determines if overall, the tryptophan metabolism had a positive or negative effect on you. So they can make decisions about from what we eat, is it good for you, is it bad for you, depending on what composition your microbial ecosystem has. Another thing that I find particularly interesting, so everybody probably has heard about the health benefits of antioxidants. So in some ways, it's a misnomer because antioxidants were in vogue some 15 years ago. And when they did experiments in the test tube, they do work as antioxidants. So then all the plants and all the fruits and blueberries, all the superfoods that we have. But when they put these same compounds into the human GI tract, almost no blood levels were detected. So the FDA actually forced the manufacturer of these superfoods not to advertise it as a health promoting thing because they couldn't explain if there's nothing in being absorbed, then it can't be healthy for you. What we know in the meantime is that these large molecules, you see it on the left side, this big structure with all these rings, doesn't get absorbed in our small intestine. It goes down to the large intestine, and the end of the small intestine is broken down by microbes into smaller, it's called phenols. The phenols are, on the one side, food for the microbes, and on the other hand are these health-promoting molecules that are probably some of the healthiest things that we get out of our plant-based food. So plant-based food, fiber, also a large molecule that only the microbes can break down, and polyphenols being the other one. So they are the explanation why a plant-based diet is actually good for us. If you didn't have the microbes, it would just go through and leave our bodies unabsorbed. So a little bit about the brain. So you see in the middle, don't pay any attention to the details. You see the different types of cells we have in the brain. There's not just nerve cells or neurons. There's also glial cells, different types of glial cells, which have always been thought to be supporting cells for the neurons. But in the meantime, we know they are actually cells with the potential to generate inflammatory molecules, cytokines, and they receive input from these metabolites that come up either through the vagus nerve or the systemic circulation. And if you look at it, there's detrimental influences and there's beneficial influences, almost like a yin and yang. Most of the things that come from plants, the short-chain fatty acids, the butyrate, there's probably many others, and the small phenols from the polyphenols, have an anti-inflammatory effect on the brain, do not stimulate the brain's immune cells, whereas the others from an unhealthy diet, for example, have the opposite effect. So the balance between, if you eat a lot of vegetables, you can also consume some junk food and won't have as bad effect on your health and on your brain health. If you eat enough of the healthy stuff, because it's like your body's own production of aspirin or anti-inflammatory substances. So we talked a lot about the gut talking to the brain, so let's talk about the other way, how the brain talks to the gut. This is something that was actually known earlier, that stress and emotions have an effect on your gut function, and you can see this with the arrows, either contractions in yellow or an inhibition of contractions. So the emotion of fear is associated with a particular pattern of inhibiting the stomach, but increasing contractions in the colon. Anger, sadness have their own patterns. Why this is important today in terms of the microbiome situation is these changes in the gut also have an effect on the microbes because it affects their ecosystem. So if you have a faster transit through the intestine, the microbes have less time to interact with the food components. So during anxiety or stress, you'll have that situation. And so we know today that these stress-induced changes in the microbial environment have multiple components, not just the transit rates, but also the fluids and mucus secretion, then the endocrine cell function. Virtually all these functions of the gut are influenced by by these emotional influences and stress-induced influences on the gut, on the environment of the microbes. Even more interesting is that some of these stress mediators, like norepinephrine, are not just released into our bloodstream where they increase heart rate and blood pressure, but they're also released into the gut lumen where they interact with receptors, adrenergic-like receptors on certain microbes, and it changes the gene expression of the microbes, and that changes their interactions with our gut. So under stress, a gut infection is more harmful, lasts longer, because the microbes now know that you are stressed, and norepinephrine has transmitted this message to the microbes. They're more aggressive towards their host. The microbiome doesn't start from out of nothing. It starts early in life, and there's major influences that program our gut microbiome and the immune system. This is something that evolution has come up with as a very clever way of programming or preparing us and our gut and our microbes for a world that evolution thinks is similar to the one that the baby came into this world. So it made a lot of sense from a survival evolutionary standpoint. It doesn't make any sense anymore today, because today this is the cause of a lot of the problems. So when we look at this prenatally at the bottom, stress level of the mother, chronic disease of the mother, medications that the mother is exposed to, but also the mode of delivery, breastfeeding, the first nutrients that the microbes get. So a big portion of breast milk is only targeted at the microbes. It's not being absorbed by the baby, so-called human milk oligosaccharides. And then the antibiotics that are ubiquitous from the first day in life, from the delivery room to the first 2 years of life, where statistics show that children have been exposed to up to 10 courses of antibiotics for either viral infections or ear infections, often which do not respond to antibiotics. So this is something that I think our microbiome is programmed for the rest of our lives. It's not that we're stuck with it, that we can't do anything with it. So this is the early programming. If you look at this kind of a concept from what's called systems biology, that we explain, for example, the stability of this microbial ecosystem with a landscape, where the bigger the holes are, the more stable is a certain state. And you can see the perinatal diet, early life experiences, genetics play a big role in determining the depth of these holes. And later in life, so we're not stuck with that. There's other factors that can influence this. So there's influences from the diet, from our mind, from the brain, and our lifestyle that can interfere with this initially programmed stability landscape. So if you're born with really deep holes, so to speak, you're more resilient to these other influences. If you are born with really shallow valleys in this landscape, any of these influences, and in our modern life, we're exposed to not just one of these, but all of them, probably most people together, are highly susceptible to these changes. So, and let me give you one of the best studies examples of that. So we know that this interaction between the microbes and the gut, or called the host, on the right side, the gut wall and the immune cells and nervous and neurons. This is really has been a symbiotic relationship for hundreds of thousands of years. We've not changed our lifestyles, our diet. And a good example are these few remaining examples of hunter-gatherers on the Orinoco River or in East Africa, where that is still the case, and people have measured. So Gloria Dominguez and Marty Blazer from New York have done some of the pivotal studies on these Yanomami Indians, and it's the most diverse and healthiest gut microbiome of anybody in the world. So they live totally embedded in nature, healthy diet, active lifestyle, a lot of social interactions. So I was fortunate during my college years to be on a film expedition for 2 months and lived with these people for 2 months. I had no idea about anything I'm telling you now, because a long time ago. I wish they could go back there, but they don't really exist in that form anymore because they all have been, westernized. Many of them have, don't know if you've seen any of these images. In Brazil, they're all dependent now on federal subsistence, and medical system. It's a sad story. But when these people went into, some of them made it into the city, in Venezuela, into Caracas, and they became obese, developed diabetes, developed exactly the same diseases that we have today. So their microbiome was in symbiosis with the world that they lived in, but it was not adaptive to living in our Western world. And I'll show you in a moment what this does. So the dramatic changes in our environment and lifestyle in the past 75 years have dramatically changed our microbes from the pattern these people, these Yanomami had, thousands of years ago. And because the microbes with all their, millions of genetic information are able to adapt to this new this new environment very quickly, within 48 hours. But now this symbiosis with our gut has disappeared because our gut does not evolve that quickly. It takes up to 10,000 years before genes change. So the microbes now, this new community of microbes that's adapted to the world outside, is no longer compatible with our gut and the immune system and the endocrine system. So the immune system rings the alarm bells. And this is one of the main causes why we have this phenomenon now, this chronic systemic immune activation that everybody talks about. So the microbes are not the cause of it. It's this mismatch that has arisen from two evolutionary, very different entities. And if you want to change it, the most effective way would change the lifestyles that would bring everything back into harmony. Probably very difficult and not likely to happen. And this shows you a little, more in a more granular way. What happens in a healthy gut? You have the lining of the gut. Then you have a mucus layer that prevents the microbes in the gut to come in contact with this outside layer. You see there's one cell that sticks out. It's an immune cell, a dendritic cell. And that cell is totally embedded in the mucus, so it does not come in contact with anything on the surface of the microbes. On the right side is what's been given this really wrong or simplified name, leaky gut. And what happens that the mucus layer is thinned, so now all of a sudden the microbes, even though they may be healthy, come in contact with these immune cells, these sentinel cells, and that triggers a whole cascade of immune activation in this gut-based immune system. This can be localized to the gut, but more likely it gets into the systemic circulation, and a phenomenon that's called metabolic endotoxemia. Depending on if you have any genetic predispositions, metabolic endotoxemia is a big risk factor for developing any of these diseases. So it's been associated with metabolic syndrome, cognitive decline, early cognitive decline, colon cancer, and many of the diseases of the chronic non-contagious epidemic. So you may say, I created this slide because I'm a gastroenterologist, I'm biased towards the GI tract, but that's actually not the case. This is really based on a lot of information that's accumulating, that the gut has become this central hub in this chronic disease epidemic, because we know that gut health, a compromised gut microbial system, a compromised barrier function because the mucus layer is thinning, is at the core of all these diseases. And these diseases don't come in isolation. They occur in the same patient, several of them at the same time. So if you have, if you have cardiovascular disease, you're likely to have also non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. If you have metabolic syndrome, you're more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. So one could say this all goes back to these mechanisms that I told you, which came from this dramatically altered lifestyle, the mismatch with our immune system, triggering of the immune system, and then migrating to all these other organs depending on your genetic predisposition. So there's probably at least 20% of people in this room who have these inflammatory mediators circulating in their blood. It's like high blood pressure. You won't know about it because it doesn't hurt. But if you develop any or have any of these diseases or take medications for any of these diseases, that's probably the reason, this mechanism that I explained to you, why you ended up with that. For the pharmaceutical industry, it's a great boon because all these diseases are being treated somewhat effectively with medications, with the statins. Now with the, this avalanche of the new anti-obesity drugs, with GLP-1 agonists, these are all lifelong therapies. They don't cure, they don't fix anything. And most likely people will have to stay on these drugs for the rest of their life. So couldn't think of anything better for the pharmaceutical industry. And you would almost think, if you're a conspiracy theorist, that there's a sort of an agreement between food production companies and the pharmaceutical industry. I didn't say that, but it's... Yeah, so just have a few minutes. I just say a few things about this. So I was recently invited to give a talk at a conference at Harvard and stayed at a guest house. And believe it or not, this was 5 minutes away from the Beth Israel Hospital, this guest house. So these advertisements were in the elevator of that. So all the patients stay in that motel. So this to me was amazing. And we think about, so it's been called the Standard American Diet, or SAD, the acronym SAD. All these foods that are there in high proportions, obviously high sugar, high in saturated fats, high in starchy carbohydrates, not the ones that the microbes like, they can break them down, and alcohol, they're all absorbed in the small intestine. None of them makes it down to our microbial ecosystem. So we're starving that system that normally promotes our health. So a gut healthy diet, like the traditional Mediterranean diet, not necessarily the modern Italian diet that you get in a pizza restaurant, which is as unhealthy as the SAD. And you see on the top of this, the main food components of that diet, the polyphenols, the phytochemicals, fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, they all nurture and are processed by the microbiome. So we have shifted our entire eating habits and our diets away from the way it had originally evolved, and it exists still in these Yanomamis. By the way, they live into their 80s and 90s. I've heard, unless they get killed by a spider or a crocodile, or they always go on war expeditions to bring other women from other tribes into their community to prevent inbreeding. But if they don't die from these causes, they live way into their 80s and 90s without any medications. So you can see how far we have deviated from that state. And the explanation is actually fairly straightforward. So I'm just going to go to the end of this. So this conference I was invited to at the Beth Israel Hospital was by the Sanguru Center. I don't know if anybody knows of this Indian guru who has 100 million followers. Very wise man. I didn't know initially why I was invited to this symposium, but I ended up having a one-to-one for 2 hours at the symposium, and we talked about everything. And he's actually somebody who has gone from being a spiritual person, concerned about consciousness and the fact that consciousness is just not located in our brain, it's the whole planet and the whole universe. So he's moved on to this direction, the health of the soil and the plants, that's essential to break these catastrophic developments that we're witnessing, and that we only prevented from realizing because of all the medications that people are taking. So if 70% of people over 70 years are on statins, that's definitely not a normal situation of health. So in my career, I've sort of moved in this direction, seeing everything in terms of systems, not the linear, reductionistic cause and effect models that we're trained as scientists and still have to do in our experiments, but to really understand the world and something like health as a problem of a system that's connected to all the other systems. The microbes play a big role across these different ecosystems, from the microscopic to the macroscopic. Let's skip this. Okay, so the model that I've embraced in my research and in my writing is this a model of a systems biological understanding of interconnectedness. I think interconnectedness is a word that is popping up now everywhere. Every meeting I go to and talk to, people talk about interconnectedness. That's exactly this paradigm shift I think we're undergoing, which is a great thing. And it's not just the brain and the gut, but it's also the environment that play major roles in these disturbed interactions. So if you're interested in learning more about this, so you've heard about my first book, The Mind-Gut Connection. The mind-gut immune connection just came out, and also because a lot of patients have contacted me after reading the first two books, so what should we eat now? So we've created this interconnected plates recipe book that is now available online as well. And there's a few really exciting things that I'm really glad I started my career and stuck with it despite all the resistance running in the beginning. That PBS is coming out with a documentary right the day after Thanksgiving called The Brain-Gut Connection. And then almost at the same time, I was approached by Masterclass, and we did a piece with them. And so if you have time, I would strongly recommend to you to learn a lot more in depth about these topics. So thank you very much.
We're going to take a 2-minute break. Do you mind taking questions outside or in the lobby? Yeah. Okay, so we're about to take a 2-minute break. If you have questions for Dr. Mayer, you're welcome to ask him yourself. A few things before we get up and stretch our legs. The bathroom is right here, just beyond the elevator on your left. We are going to resume in about 2 minutes. I want to encourage you, before everyone gets up and gets going, there's a paper survey that you probably found at your chair. Otherwise, you can get one from the back. Please take a moment to fill that survey out. It has to do with MyChart, that wonderful thing I told you about earlier. So please let us know what you think about MyChart. And if you give that survey to the folks at the Tech Connect table at the back of the room, we have a variety of raffle giveaways we'll be giving away throughout the rest of the program. So please, please give us your survey, and you'll be entered for a chance to win a lot of different goodies, including a few really wonderful donations, including a refurbished laptop, yours for the taking, and a pair of Beats headphones. So those are all for you. Please give your survey to the folks at the back of the room. We're going to be back with a really exciting schedule. We've got folks from the Community Mural Project. We've got experts and practitioners from across the healthcare industry. So please do stick around. We'll be back in just a few moments. All right, thank you. All right, everyone. We're going to get started with our next round of programming. I'm really excited for the rest of this program, so feel free to visit the tables, enter in the raffle giveaway like I just mentioned. We're going to start calling those names out for our exciting giveaways after our next talk, so please stick around, okay? I'm excited to welcome our next two guests, Jan Rothschild and Larissa Trinder. We've invited these folks from NYC Health and Hospitals and the Laurie M. Tisch Illumination Fund to share about the accessible and innovative programs they support, programs that address health issues that impact New York communities and utilize the arts as a tool for healing. They are representing the Community Mural Project, which I got to plug. We have these beautiful books in the back of the room that they're going to be talking about, so please take one. They are free for the taking, and they'll tell you more about it. The Community Mural Project embodies the heart of innovation and comprehensive community health care in New York City in the 21st century. They'll be talking about the resources and programs they offer, and I'll let them talk more about it. So if you are interested in learning more, speaking of, I've got to plug another library program. That's what I'm here for. If you're interested in learning more about art and technology, we have some really lovely digital drawing classes that we offer downstairs on the 6th floor. So please do check out the Tech Connect classes. We teach classes on the iPad if you're interested in creating your own art. So I had to get that plug in there. I'm just going to let Jan and Larissa introduce themselves. Please welcome Jan and Larissa to the stage.
Hey, I'm Jan Rothschild. Larissa's going to join me in a minute. Show me how to do this. Oh, they are. Okay. I'm going to wait. We have some slides. Hi, everybody. Dr. Mayer was amazing, wasn't he? It was so amazing, right? Okay, so I hope you enjoy our talk. Okay, so I'm just going to play this short video. Brandon, can you? Can you cue up the video? Thanks. It's there. Nope, the video. We saw it this morning, so I know you
There's
have.
something about the power of art in healing that has a kind of universal hold.
Decades of research have shown that the arts are a powerful tool to improve lives and promote healing.
One of our learnings was that different artistic disciplines can function in very different ways in addressing health issues. Films, visual art, theater, storytelling, music, dance, the range of artistic approaches and the range of the issues that they can help with was really striking.
When it comes to mental health, it's really hard to talk about it. Telling stories through films, I feel like, is the most effective way of being able to relate to others.
I work with Community Access. We're one of the leading housing and mental health providers in New York City. The Changing Minds Young Filmmaker Festival is fueling real-life conversations around mental health among young people and their peers. We have received over 3,000 films from young people in 88 countries around the world, covering issues like eating disorders, anxiety, depression, suicide ideations.
We talked a lot about our own creative journeys while we were storyboarding the film. We opened up to each other a lot about the insecurities we had and the kind of processes we go through to overcome them. Seeing the amount of views it got on YouTube, along with reading a lot of the comments that we got, it made me feel a lot less alone.
The Laurie M. Tisch Illumination Fund was really the first foundation that recognized how vital that Changing Minds Young Filmmaker Program and Festival can be.
There was a need and an opportunity to help scale this program. And that's really why we got behind them as one of the first grantees in our Arts and Health Initiative.
They stitch together. They support each other. They find a way to speak the unspeakable. Common Threads Project works with survivors of gender-based violence, war, and displacement in places around the world. And we train local clinicians, local practitioners to do a very specific intervention so that these survivors can really thrive. We're finding that women can disclose their experiences in these story clubs in ways they cannot do if a clinician is sitting in front of them with a clipboard and saying, "Tell me about your trauma."
They don't need to share in words what they went through. It's about trusting that creative process that they're involved in. It was just powerful to witness and an emotional moment for me. As a therapist, I had to kind of hold it in and keep composure.
The Lori M. Tisch Illumination Fund has been so generous to support us to launch a project in New York. It's been very exciting.
Our approach at Darkness Rising is to use joy. And we use that joy through song, and we bring Broadway stars out to a stage, and we sing and we tell our stories, and we provide free mental health support for everyone.
We're a Black mental health organization that meets Black mental health and the performing arts. We kind of work at the intersection of that.
We are the only mental health nonprofit that provides free therapy session for formerly incarcerated Black people. That is huge.
Stigma is one of the main reasons why I started Darkness Rising Project. I was so afraid to reach out for help because I'm Black. We're gonna fight against that stigma, and we're gonna find a way to make that therapy possible for people.
Our mission is access and opportunity for all New Yorkers. All people, no matter their zip code or the circumstances of their birth, deserve to experience the transformative power of the arts.
We've been so impressed by the collective power of the grantees. We've seen the momentum build, the strength of programs build, the reach of who they're touching. The collective impact is extraordinary.
So that video gives you just a small idea of just 3 of the organizations that we work with at the Illumination Fund. Here's a slide that shows this is the cohort of organizations that we work with. They're all across the city. They're large and they're small. And what they have in common is that they're organizations that are working at the intersection of the arts and healthcare. The Lori M. Tisch Illumination Fund is not an arts foundation and fostering healthy and vibrant communities. And the word communities, healthy, vibrant, those words are very important because the Illumination Fund, when we look at organizations that we're gonna fund, we're really involved in gauging impact in communities large and small across New York. The needs are huge. And there are great community-based organizations. So if you live in the Bronx, for example, we look at aging-related disease, for example. There's an organization called Dance for PD, Parkinson's disease. They use dance to help people stave off the effects of Parkinson's. And there's decades of research that help us understand that movement and dance can really help people who are suffering from Parkinson's. Arts and Minds. We work with organizations that, with Arts and Minds who work with older adults who are suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's, bringing them to museums. They look at art, they talk about art, and then they make art. And it's really beautiful because it stimulates the brain. It also helps with isolation, with helping to combat isolation. We know that dementia and aging-related diseases are often really isolating. And so organizations and programs that can bring people together to do activities together not only stimulates the brain, but it helps people find community. And that's really important. We work with an organization called Gibney, which is a big, fabulous dance organization. They work across the city, and they also have a program for survivors of gender-based violence, and they use dance to help people tell their stories in movement and use movement to unlock some of the joy that's inside all of us and that gets really pushed down when people are experiencing this kind of trauma. And so dance is really particularly effective at helping people unlock joy and recover from that trauma. We work with Fountain House. Fountain House is an organization that their population is people who are suffering from really debilitating mental illness. And they have painting classes and programs and exhibitions and art therapy programs for their population. So if you know someone who's suffering day to day with mental illness, Fountain House is a great resource in the city. Theater is a fabulous outlet and a fabulous tool to address many kinds of health issues. The Pregones Puerto Rican traveling theater is in the Bronx, and they also have a Midtown program. And they do regular theater, but they also have a program called Abrazo, and they create plays that are about issues that that the community in the Bronx and especially the Latinx community is facing, and then they produce the plays with an audience like this, and then the audience participates in a conversation about the issues that the plays evoke in them, and those conversations can lead to catharsis and to feeling a sense of community and to help people understand that they're not the only ones, that they're not alone in feeling whatever they felt. And then one of our largest partnerships is with the New York City Health and Hospitals. And Larissa is going to tell you a lot more about their programs, but one of the really fun projects that we started about, I don't know, 5 years ago, is the Community Mural Project. And of course, everybody's been holding up the book, and you've seen the book. We did this book really as a thank you to the thousands of people that helped us create the murals over the first 3 years of the program. We started our partnership with New York City Health and Hospitals because, well, our mission is access and opportunity for all New Yorkers. What speaks to access and opportunity more powerfully than the largest safety net hospital system in the country? It's so amazing to be in New York and to see a system that welcomes everyone. They welcome you no matter whether you can afford care, if you're an immigrant, if you have insurance, if you don't have insurance, if you need regular care, if you have emergency needs. The system is extraordinary, and the doctors and nurses and every staff member there works their hardest to make sure that they're giving the best possible care to their patients. And so we're really proud to be partnering with Larissa and the Arts and Medicine program. And the Illumination Fund, as you heard Rick say, we look at community-based arts organizations and health organizations and say, this organization is doing amazing work in their community, but there's a bigger need. How can we, the Illumination Fund, a funder, help them scale up those programs? And that's how we choose the partners in our programs. So I'm going to let Larissa tell you a lot more about what's going on in arts and health, but I just want to give one more plug to the book. You're getting a free copy today. It's also available on Amazon. And all the proceeds, it's not very expensive, but all the proceeds from sales on Amazon go to supporting the arts and medicine program at New York City Health and Hospital. So if you have a favorite person in your life and you want to support the arts and health program, get them a book. Okay, Larissa?
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you to Walter and his team for inviting us to speak today. This is really exciting. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to start with about a 4-minute video as well, and then we're going to only have about 11 minutes after that, and I really want to have time for our two amazing artists that are here, so I'm going to kind of go through this rather quickly.
The Arts and Medicine Department at New York City Health and Hospitals was established as a larger system-wide strategy to address workforce burnout and support staff wellness, to deliver evidence-based programs that deepen empathy, create team cohesion, and reinforce shared experience.
Mostly like really calming music that I connected to.
I am the director of the Creative Arts Therapy Program.
But I know that somebody has a phone that you know, like her, that y'all can sit down and record this and focus on your stuff. That's all I'm asking. Keep going, keep going, keep going. So go in, because y'all got it.
Practicing for ballet routine.
Yours, close fighting Aries.
Come on, Bo.
You'll be fine. There, Romeo is such a good boy. Like, oh my God, I'm so in love with him.
Many people have written about the evidence of how looking at art and slowing down benefits our brain. It allows us to connect with part of our brain that normally is not active at all times. It allows us to slow down, take deep breaths in the process without us even noticing. So that is an element of healing.
My favorite is going to the 13th floor. The walls are adorned with artwork. I noticed the difference in the environment. And there's just such a difference in spirit, in the therapeutic environment. When I look at the way in which the concentration or the focus is by the trainees, there's a difference. There's a difference in that focus. There's a difference in that attention.
Thank you. So that does give really kind of a high-level, broad overview of what the Arts and Medicine Department does, but we're really built off of two main functions. One is we have the largest public art collection dating back to the 1930s in New York City, if not the country, and it was recently highlighted in the New York Times. Not many people know about this because it's in this public safety net. That collection is used all the time to equitably distribute throughout our health system to create healing environments, and we do this with clinic. We inform the way we curate them through clinical focus groups and also what's called evidence-based design, which means we're not just putting art up because it looks good. We're really thinking about the environment and the staff and the patients and families that are going to be in those environments. And this correlates with better patient satisfaction and better overall retention of our workforce. So as Jan mentioned, and I don't need to read all of this, we are the largest public safety net system in the country. We have 11 acute care facilities, 4 long-term care, and close to 70 clinics in all 5 boroughs. And we care for the most vulnerable New Yorkers. That equates to about 1.4 million New Yorkers every year. So the Arts and Medicine Department is really, as I mentioned in the video, part of a larger system-wide strategy to support our workforce and our patients and families. And we do this in a myriad of ways. One of them I just talked about is the healing environments. Another is programs for our staff. You saw a little, programs for our patients. You saw a little bit about the Lullaby Project there. For our workforce, we have a bunch of different programs, a pretty robust artist in residency, which means we have an artist that is weekly in the systems all year long to work with staff and patients and families. And then the reason that we're really here to talk about today is the community wellness component. So the book that you received, the cover of the book is by an artist named Amanda Fink-Hippolyta, and she became very well known during COVID for highlighting Asian hate crimes with her work that was addressing some of the very negative political comments that were made at that time. So she really demonstrated and is a great exemplar of how artists can raise the consciousness of really complex issues and really make waves in ways that others can't. So the mural program, and Jan gave a good intro to that. You know, we're in our 4th year. At the end of this year, we'll have 36 murals in all 5 boroughs. This is considered to be the largest mural program in any healthcare facility in the country. We're very proud. We've just partnered with the NYU Jameel Art and Health Lab to be part of a global study. It'll be ours in New York City, a hospital system in Slovenia, a hospital system in Nigeria, and a hospital system in the UK, all looking at how this really impacts public health. So this is just it's a little older because we now have more murals, but this really just shows where we're located throughout the New York system and where a lot of our murals currently reside. So I'm really excited today to have two of our artists here, TJ Mohammed and Zihan Wazed. TJ is working on still finishing up a mural for Harlem Hospital that's going to be, and I'll let him actually talk a little more about it. But what's so unique about this program, and I think is of interest to this group today, is this is a really collaborative community program. So the artist comes in and he goes into what we call focus groups. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's four. Who's comprised of that focus group are staff, some patients, community advisory board members, all sorts of stakeholders in the community to help inform the final vision. So the artist really comes in and listens. And that can sometimes be hard for artists because they have their own, obviously, way that they create things. But it's really important that that's an element of this. Then we have a paint party, and that brings together the whole community, people in the hospital, anybody else who would like to join, and we print the mural, I won't go through all the details, onto what's called a poly tab, and everybody comes together and paints it. And so this is just a sneak peek of that mural, and I'm going to let TJ talk a little bit more about that right now for a minute.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the time being here. Working on this mural has been a great process because when I moved from Ghana to the US 10 years ago. My studio in Ghana is a hub, it's a community hub where everybody comes in and celebrate. I babysit. If I should be babysitting in Ghana, maybe I would have been richer. But so when I moved to the US, it was difficult to find a community to work, especially waiting for documentation. And I made a promise to myself that when everything gets settled, I'm going to turn myself into what I used to be in Ghana. So working outside of my studio is the first step of my personal healing process. And then I transfer that into the community. My 6 panels would be talking about healing portraits, where I'm celebrating these people, this group of people who have come together to create a community of healing everyone, regardless of age, color. And these images didn't just come through my head or through the polytab, but it's a process, like Larissa mentioned, through the community. Everybody brings out their ideas. So in a way, I'm celebrating the community in also healing the same community. So when the community take ownership of the piece, then this piece have a longer lifespan of healing. Thank you.
And so what you're seeing is one of how many, TJ? 8? Six panels that are going to be at one of the entrances of Harlem Hospital, al fresco, so they'll be above you when you walk in. So Zihan Wazed, it's been a wonderful experience working with Zihan. He created a mural in Queens Hospital, and I'll let him tell a little bit more about that, but this is one of our largest murals. It's 1,200 square feet. It spans the entire hallway, and I have a 1 minute, it's literally like 1 minute video to share about that.
This 1,200 square foot mural is at the Welcome Center, and it features 8 different medicinal flowers. I wanted something that's aesthetic, but also educational to a certain extent. So Queens Hospital is such a staple of this community. I grew up 2-3 blocks away, so I'm really excited to leave my mark on this hospital, to create something that's welcoming to all.
Zihan?
Thank you guys for this amazing opportunity to speak, and thank you Larissa and Jan for this beautiful opportunity to create this mural at Queens Hospital. And I was particularly excited to create this mural at Queens Hospital. As I mentioned, I grew up 3-4 blocks away from it. And I actually, I kind of fought for it a little bit. Initially, I was given Carter Hospital. I was like, no, I have to get Queens Hospital. I'm very adamant about bringing art to Queens. And God forbid my parents ever have to go to the hospital. I mean, they literally live 2 blocks away. And I have my own personal stories with this hospital as well. When I broke my fingers, my dad brought me to their ER, and it was the same fingers that I used to paint this mural. So it was really interesting to see that all come in full circle. But this project was one that was really heartfelt for me. And I think, the hospital is such a high stress environment. There's so many things going on. And I think I experienced it the most when I was on a lift, just, adding touch-ups. And I looked down and there was families in the waiting area. And, I was just in the periphery, but even so, just, I knew that they were at their most dire at times and moments, and even if art could just provide a breath of levity, anything, just a little bit of hope, I think I've done my job then. So it was a wonderful opportunity to get that, to create artwork in this sort of environment. And it was also really interesting to have this sort of feedback from the board of the hospital, which is composed of the doctors and the different directors, which helped me guide, who helped me guide in creating this design as well. So having their feedback was really helpful, and also my sister as well, because she happened to be a doctor. I come from a family of doctors, and I ended up kind of painting. I don't know how that happened, but it was really interesting to sort of bridge over that experience. Speaking to my sister, she had mentioned how, she deals with so many patients and sickness. So she's like, just create something that provides a little bit of escape. And I thought, it would be a wonderful way to just sort of bring flowers into it. I mean, if some people are familiar with homeopathic medicine, that flowers are a big part of what, modern medicine today. So, and I also wanted to reflect upon the diversity at Queens Hospital. It's probably the most diverse hospital possibly in the whole world. So I used 8 different flowers to sort of represent that. And I had these vines, which were inspired by just my street art, and to sort of connect it, to sort of symbolize this intertwining community. So yeah, that's the general gist of my mural for Queens Hospital, and I'm extremely appreciative for the opportunity. Thank you.
I think it's really interesting. He's the artist and his siblings are doctors, because why I always say that artists are an essential healthcare service. They are as important as the doctors. And as Dr. Mayer was talking about the different ways to address non-communicable diseases, the arts are one of those. And so we have to really shift the paradigm in healthcare to be thinking about how we're addressing people's health. And the doctors are incredibly important. Clinical teams, medicine, science, absolutely important. I am not saying it's not, but we're not doing our job if we're not thinking of every possible avenue to address loneliness, to address mental health, and the arts have a tremendous amount of research that supports that. So it's a really, it's been a really tremendous thing, and I think it's more than just beautiful flowers. I do think it's actually enhancing people's health. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks so much, Jan and Larissa. That was a really beautiful presentation. We got some exciting programming coming up next, but first, it is time for our first raffle giveaway. So if you have a ticket, find your ticket number. We're gonna give away 2 now. We're gonna continue the giveaways throughout the rest of the programming. So Agnes is gonna help me out. Please make your presence known if you are here. Otherwise, I'm going to call another ticket. So our first winner is 507376. Going to call another. Maybe raise your hand or shout if you're still here. 507352. You want to, here, Agnes, you want to pull them as I call them? We're just going to keep going until someone wins something. 507381. Wow, we got some people that left. 507350. Shake it up. Yeah, maybe yeah. 507382. TikTok. 507362. Let's go. I've got a good feeling. If you could actually go to the back of the room, we've got a giveaway table and we'll hand you some stuff. Let's see if we can get another. I've got a good feeling now. 507369. Yes, okay. Wonderful. Okay. We're gonna do some more giveaways very shortly after our next speaker, so please stick around. If you haven't turned your survey in, you can do so at the back of the room and talk to our folks at the back of the room. All right, I want to introduce our very next guest. I cannot seem to find my biography for this guest. Thank you very much. All right. Beautiful. That was very smooth. All right. Now our next guest is Dr. Jonathan Jimenez, the Executive Director of NYC Care. Dr. Jonathan Jimenez is he manages a healthcare access program that aims to ensure every New Yorker has access to healthcare regardless of their immigration status or ability to pay. NYC Care is housed within New York City Health and Hospitals, the largest public healthcare system in the nation. We just heard from some folks from there, and has over 120,000 members. The program works with 22 community-based organizations across the city and runs a citywide awareness campaign to ensure all New Yorkers know they have a right to healthcare. Dr. Jimenez is trained in family medicine at Duke University and holds a Master's of Public Health from Columbia University. Please welcome Dr. Jimenez.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here, especially following the amazing presentation by my colleagues at New York City Health and Hospitals. I really believe that art and beauty is what makes us, at least in part, know that the infinite worth of every human being. And NYC Care is just one way that we're trying to live out that knowledge. So the program really started because even though the Affordable Care Act expanded health insurance to over 20 million people, it excluded people who were undocumented or had another immigration status that wasn't, a resident or a citizen. And if you believe, like I said, that everyone is worthy and valuable, we want to invest in people and care for them. So we wanted to create a program, even if it's not health insurance, that is like health insurance, that would make sure that people had a right to health care in New York City through, again, New York City Health and Hospitals, the largest public healthcare system in the country. Anybody else who, could enroll in health insurance would be able to through our system. And the value there is really equity, right? So people that are excluded, how do we serve them in a way that makes sure that they're getting equal care? Similarly, another value that was important to the program is access, making sure that it was timely appointments with specialists in a timely fashion as well, radiology labs. And then privacy, because we know that because of anti-immigrant sentiment and rhetoric across the country, there's so much fear in trying to seek services. So we want to make sure that, one, we are able to go out and say, you have a right to health care, and you don't have to be afraid to get the health care you need. Key pillars of the NYC Care Healthcare Access Program is one, primary care. I'm biased, I'm a family doctor myself, but the evidence actually shows that one of the most important aspects of healthcare is having a primary care doctor that if you have a stomach ache, if you have a bump that you felt recently in the shower, where to get that addressed, right? And make sure you get that evaluated. We also made investments in pharmacy services so that even if our hospital and clinic pharmacies are closed, in an emergency you can access care and the medications you need at a CVS in your borough. And lastly, I think the coolest part is that you get a insurance-like patient experience. So you get a membership card with your name on it, the name of your primary care provider, what fees you can expect to pay. That's huge, because how often do people not go to get care they need because they're not sure what the bill's going to be, right? So that is really essential. And then lastly, there's a 24/7 number, 646-692-2273, available 24/7. We have telephonic interpretation over 300 languages, where you can have your questions answered about the program or just accessing healthcare generally will direct you in the right direction. So who is eligible for the program? Now, if you're eligible for health insurance, we want you to enroll in that. So, and some people, you may be unsure. So part of the process of enrolling in NYC Care is that health insurance screening piece. So first we screen you. If you're not eligible for health insurance, then that's that first criteria. You have to live in New York City, in the 5 boroughs as well. And you can also be excluded from health insurance based on the price of the premiums. As you know, health insurance can be very expensive as well. And depending on your income and the benefits from the state, sometimes there are gaps. So if the premium that you're eligible for is unaffordable for you, you would also qualify for the NYC Care program. There are a few different ways to enroll. I mentioned the 646 as our 24/7 number. You can also go to one of our facilities. As was already mentioned today, we're the largest in the city, in the country, the largest public healthcare system in the country. It really is just head and shoulders above anything else that exists in the country. Like so many other things in New York City, it's something to really be proud of. It makes me proud to be a New Yorker myself and born at actually one of New York City Health and Hospitals, Elmhurst Hospital, if there's anybody from Elmhurst. And then lastly, another way to enroll or learn more about the program is our 22 community-based organizations that we work with and that speak over 40 different languages to make sure that you have a trusted partner in the community that can answer your questions and walk you through the enrollment process. These are some of our current and past partners. If you recognize them, feel free to reach out to them or refer friends and family to them to get access to healthcare. A key part of the program is also, like I said, sort of counteracting the rhetoric to say, no, there's a right to healthcare. And so we are out there working hard, knocking on doors, making sure people know they have right to access, advertising. Hopefully you've seen our ads on buses, trains, in many different languages. And we also have, we work with the mayor's office, the mayor's public engagement unit, for example, to make sure the people in the community know about the program. These are a few samples of our public awareness campaign. We just recently launched a new one, so keep an eye out for that. And these are some key milestones. So we launched, as I mentioned, I think in 2019, borough by borough. Now we're across the city. We reached our initial goal of 100,000 active members, and we reached over 120,000 members now, which is really a huge feat. We think over half of those people had never accessed healthcare before, and we know anecdotally that there are people who hadn't seen a doctor in 20, 40 years. So we're really providing a crucial service to the community, and so far our preliminary analyses show that even people with diabetes are getting their blood sugar well controlled, hypertension, their blood pressure is getting controlled, and so we really need you to be out there sharing this news, right? Because like everything that we do together in New York, it takes everyone to make something a reality. And part of that is making sure everybody knows there's a right to healthcare. So if you ever hear of anybody saying, I'm not sure, there's this thing I need to get checked out, but I'm worried about health insurance or I'm worried about the price, don't hesitate to give them our number. The reason is, like I said, we screen for health insurance. So there is no wrong door. Our goal is to connect everyone. And this is one of the beauties of having a public healthcare system, and that New York City and us has decided to make access to healthcare, regardless of your ability to pay or immigration status, a reality. So keep that in your back pocket. Again, you can also go to our facilities and our CBO partners. If you are a community-based organization that has health insurance screeners and would like to partner more closely, feel free to email me at jonathan.jimenez@nychhc.org. And if you have success stories, maybe you know somebody who already enrolled in NYC Care, had some great benefits. We want to share that news because you never go into an empty restaurant, right? You want to go to the restaurant that's full. There's a line. You're like, wow, this is like must be something going on there. So we want to get the news out about the success stories as well. So definitely reach out to Alex Hunter, our Director of Communications, who's here in the audience today, if you have any of those success stories. And I want to pause briefly. I think we have 2 minutes. If anybody has any questions at all, I'd love to answer them. Yep. That's a great question. So the question was, do the primary care clinics have nighttime and weekend hours? The answer is yes. So as a part of the system, we have a federally qualified health center network. It's actually, I think, the largest in the country as well. And that's a requirement to be a federally qualified health center, is to have these nighttime and weekend hours to serve people who work during the day and need to access care nonetheless. We also have something called virtual express care, which makes it super easy to access telehealth services, expresscare.nyc. That's for NYC Care members or not, so feel free to use it. You can quickly get a doctor on the phone or on video, really 24/7. That's really actually the platform that's been leveraged for a lot of the things you might have seen in the news, like access to adoption, access to COVID medications. And so we're also proud of that, expresscare.nyc. Yep.
No, this is really a fantastic program. Congratulations. I was just wondering, who's paying the bills in this?
We are. This is why I think we should really be proud and pat ourselves on the back. This is something just like the rest of the public healthcare system. We have the best public institutions in this country because as New Yorkers, we've decided this is a priority. This is important to invest in every single person that lives in the city.
I just want to thank because my life was saved by this very program. I am from India originally and I was a student here. I didn't know anything about the healthcare systems, whatever, and I was detected with COVID. In less than an hour, the facility, they came, they reached me, they took me to the best place, and they took such great care of me. Today I'm standing here because of your facility. I'm very, very grateful.
Wow, thank you so much. You bring me to tears, but I mean, this is why we do the work we do. So thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. I know we have other great speakers, but thank you. Reach out to me if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jimenez. We're going to keep the ball rolling, but first things first. You already know what time it is. 507-374. Let's go. Let's get another. You can go to the back of the room and we'll give you some free swag. 507-330. Your odds are getting better the longer you stay. 507-377. All right, we've got a second winner. All right. So we're going to keep calling winners. Don't worry. We've got about an hour left of programming and plenty of chances to win. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next wonderful speaker. Next up, we've got Martina Lopez-May. Martina is a second-year medical student at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai and one of the chairs of the EHHOP, or the East Harlem Health Outreach Partnership. As co-chair, she oversees the clinic operations and student leadership, and she works with and reports to faculty leadership to ensure that patient care, student education, and all other endeavors they have are working well. Please welcome Martina Lopez-May.
Gotta move this down a bit. Ooh. There we go. Okay. Thank you for inviting me to talk. Anytime I can talk about this clinic, I'm super, super excited to. So yeah, like they said, I'm the co-chair of the East Harlem Health Outreach Program, along with my co-chair, Kala, who can't be here today because she's in clinic right now seeing patients. So just a little bit about our clinic. It was founded in 2004, so we're approaching our 20-year anniversary next year. It's a nationally recognized student-run physician-precepted clinic with over 300 patients. And in order to be able to join our clinic, you have to be a resident of East Harlem. You have to be uninsured and uninsurable. So the main reason for that being undocumented immigrants. And we serve adults. We provide a wide range of services, which I'll talk about a little bit. And they are all free of charge, so a patient is never expected to pay anything. In fact, when they come to clinic, we give them a $25 Target gift card in case they have to take any time off of work to come see us. And we got a gold rating from the National Association of Free and Charitable Clinics, something we just like to show. So our mission has 3 main objectives: health equity, provide high quality health care to anyone and everyone. Community partnership, we really do our best to embed ourselves into the community, work with the community. And medical education, we're working out of a medical school, so we try our best to teach our students when they come in the best that we can. So like I said, we have 300 plus patients who are adults. A few things to highlight is 86% of our patients are Spanish speaking. So because of that, we have in-house interpreters, so they're students who get special training to be able to interpret to help our non-Spanish speaking students see patients. 38% of them have food insecurity, 75% limited literacy, 100% below the federal poverty line, and the average mean income for our patients is $11,410. So like I said, it's student and physician run. So older students, so M3s and M4s, people who have completed their preclinical work, are able to see patients, and then they report those patients to physicians who then go and see the patients as well. So it's a whole team effort with students and physicians to carry out this endeavor. And preclinical students, so students in their first and second years of medical school, will take on all the administrative tasks. So they'll be the person that you see when you come to clinic who give you your paperwork, and they're the ones that act on everything behind the scenes. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about all the services. So we do a lot of stuff. Primary care, the main one. We also provide urgent care, medications, nursing care, lab testing. We have specialty clinics, gynecology, cardiology, ophthalmology, all those that are listed. We have a mental health clinic with CBT providers. And we also provide a lot of social services because we acknowledge that our patients have way more than just health needs. So we have a whole social work team that works with our patients. We have benefit screenings, nutrition counseling, health education, et cetera, et cetera. We really do try and support our patients in every way that we can. An example is if a patient comes and this is something that's happened. They were struggling getting to work because it was far and they couldn't pay for the subway, so we got them a bike. We had a patient that was sleeping on the floor of an apartment, we got them a mattress. Things like that, you know, you don't get at a regular doctor's office. We really do our best to provide to our patients. Patient assistance, so now into the money. So I have another slide, so I'll talk about it actually, I don't know if I include that slide, so we'll talk about it here. So we have $22,000 in patient assistance to meet the needs of our patients. And even though we don't have that many patients, 300 patients, $22,000 is still not enough. We also spent $47,000 to cover the entirety of our patients' pharmacy costs. And we could always use more because those $47,000 we really had to fight for, and we really had to fight to get those medication costs down in order to be able to get them. So that's just a little bit about our finances. We, like I mentioned, try to integrate ourselves into the community, so we have a variety of community partnerships, some of them being Baroquian Health, I always struggle saying that, and Settlement Health. We work a lot with them. We work the New York Common Pantry a lot, and a bunch of other things that we do to try and get a bunch of services for our patients and a bunch of services in East Harlem that are easily accessible. So in terms of research and quality improvement, we do a lot of research to hold ourselves accountable. There's no national organization telling free clinics you need to meet X, Y, and Z. measures in order to, stay functioning because we're a free clinic. So we do a lot of research to hold ourselves accountable and quality improvement. So in the past just few years, we've had 9 manuscripts presented and 12 conferences. We also have 16 peer-reviewed papers, and we also have a consulting group, and we work with other student-run free clinics to make sure that we're doing everything the best that we can. So that's just a short list of all of our publications. I like to brag about that. And onto the challenges. It's challenging with our limited funds to really provide the care that we want to provide to our patients. So to talk a little bit about this, medications in the US are very, very expensive. So we do struggle a lot with that. And they're even more expensive when you don't have insurance to help pay for them. So that's a really big struggle. And like I said, we try and pay for everything. When we can't afford something, we find a way. We'll apply for grants. We'll work with Mount Sinai to get free medications. We have partnerships with pharmacies. At the end of the day, the patients will get their medications and they will never pay for them. So that's a big accomplishment for us. Social determinants, like I said, our population has a lot of social needs. They have limited access to social services outside of EHOP, and that's the main reason why we really do provide so much and try so hard to make sure that our patients, not our parents, our patients leave our clinic with everything kind of paid for and attended to. This is just a little screenshot of our budget spreadsheet. I thought this was interesting to show. Our entire operating budget, beyond just pharmacy costs, is $186,000. It may seem like a lot of money, but that's less than the average physician makes in a year, so it really isn't a lot. And we get this money from an endowment that we have. We get about $70,000 a year from an endowment, and we have a few other sources of income. But like I said, we still struggle to, give everything we can to patients. So physician volunteer staffing, we have at least 2 board-certified physicians every week precepting clinic. And that in the picture is our founder, Dr. Yasmin Mia, who is incredible. She does everything for us. And like I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of research, and we really try to hold ourselves accountable as a group to make sure that we are providing the best care that we can, the best quality of care that we can, everything. And we do that through a bunch of our research. So we use the healthcare effectiveness data and information set, just a bunch of health outcomes from patients across the country. We compare that with our patients, and we look to see how our patients are doing based off of how the rest of the country is doing. And the outcome is that EHOP patients were statistically better or equivalent to Medicaid national benchmarks for 90% of the metrics measured in the study. So in that database, which we're very proud of, given that we have limited resources and we're serving, for our resources that we have, a lot of patients. This is my favorite part, patient satisfaction. So we surveyed 81 patients on how they feel, and they're happy. So they're either happy or very happy with their care at EHOP, and that just goes to show that they feel cared for, they feel heard, they feel like there's someone there that is invested in their health and their well-being, which before EHOP is something that a lot of them didn't have. So this is something that we really take a lot of pride in. Patients are also, accepting of the fact that we are in a medical school and students do see them. So a lot of them embrace the fact that they are taking a role in our education, and they love that. So whenever the physician walks in with a med student, or whenever a physician's walked in with me personally, the patients already all get really happy, and I think that's the case for most patients. So medication costs, like I said, we spend a lot of money on medications, but we could always use more. We have the patient drug assistance programs. We work with the Dispensary of Hope at Sinai. These are just a few of the ways that we're able to get medications for our patients. This is a little more in depth. So, like I said, non-medical factors. There's food insecurity that we try to address. We have exercise programs. We help with health literacy. We have safety at home, microclimate. So there's a lot of social needs that our patients have. And like I mentioned, we really do try and address those. We have an entire team called the Access to Care team. And when a patient comes to clinic, they'll see their doctor, they'll see the social worker, they'll see whoever they need to see from an ancillary clinic. And then they'll see this team and they'll say, what else do you need? Like, how else can we help you? And all of that is recorded, and you have case managers who take on a patient load and try to get these patients what they need, whatever that may be. And they're incredible, and I think it's one of my favorite parts about EHOP. So, secret to success. We have specialty referrals that we do to Mount Sinai, and that really helps us with our patients who have needs that are beyond the scope of our clinic. We've done, I think, over 500 referrals in the past year. And like I mentioned, the Dispensary of Hope, we have the Patient Drug Assistance Program for medications. And we also partner with a lot of different organizations to get our patients more care. For example, we have a partnership to get colorectal cancer screenings. Student volunteers. Like I said, we have a lot of student volunteers. And like I mentioned, we do work on a really low budget, and we do try and make the most of it. This is a QR code for our donation site, if anyone is inclined to donate, or if anyone knows anyone who would be inclined to. And thank you. And then there's our website, ehop.org, if you're interested in learning more. There's an email on it, and that email goes to my inbox. So if you want to learn a little more, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martina. That was wonderful. We've got a couple wonderful speakers lined up next. We've got some folks from NYU. We've got some physical therapists, and we've got folks from Memorial Sloan Kettering, in addition to a few others. So please do stick around. We've got a few speakers left. It's going to be really wonderful, but you know what's next. 507-353. 50. Yes, there we go. We've got one winner. All right. And then another 50. You can head to the table, the Tech Connect table in the back room. We'll give you some swag. 507-372. And another wonderful. All right. Thanks, y'all. Okay. Our next speaker is Sheila Willis. Sheila Willis is the lead community health representative and patient navigator with the Beatrice W. Welters Breast Health Outreach and Navigation Program at NYU's Perlmutter Cancer Center. Her role consists of helping medically underserved women in New York City with accessing mammogram screenings and the entire care continuum as needed if a cancer diagnosis has been found. Sheila's mission is to make people aware of the importance of screening and early detection, as well as offer any support or service that provides a person in need the chance to lead a healthy and fulfilling life without illness. Please welcome Sheila.
Hello, good afternoon. How's everybody? Good. So, as Walter said, I'm from NYU under the Perlmutter Cancer Center umbrella of NYU, and I am with the Beatrice W. Welters Breast Health Outreach and Navigation Program. So we are a breast health and navigation screening program. So we are a breast screening and breast health program serving the 5 boroughs of New York City through outreach, building relationships through community partnerships to connect the audience we want to reach and encourage women to get screened. We educate women about breast health and provide resources for breast cancer screening, diagnosis, and information on the latest treatments available, including clinical trials. We navigate providing personalized support and assistance to a woman as she enters and moves through the healthcare program system and addresses any barriers that may arise. Our mission at the Beatrice Welch's program at NYU is to bring a vigorous focus on reducing barriers to and disparities in excellent screening and care for medically underserved women. Motivation and encouragement by means of carefully designed community outreach activities that will help underserved women gain access to a full continuum of personalized care through screening, diagnosis, treatment, and post-treatment support. To further improve outcomes, this program will increase opportunities for those women to receive promising new therapies through clinical trials, especially as it relates to triple-negative breast cancer. This program aims to be a model for other cities to follow to improve outcomes in breast cancer. And why do we focus on? We focus mainly, we focus on all 5 boroughs, but Brooklyn is one that I focus heavily on, and that's because Brooklyn has the highest death rates from breast cancer. And it's 1.5 times higher than New York City overall. I'll go into it a little as I move along in this. I didn't start to sell, the slide yet. Actually, now you can bring up the slides if you. I have to control it? Me? Okay, thumbs up. That's me. Okay, y'all asking for a lot now. I'm not sure which. So I'm pressing the button. Which one? Am I pressing the arrow thing? Okay, it's not. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right, there we go. All right, thanks. So who we are, as I said, we are, the Welch's is a community-based education, outreach, and navigation program. And we provide one-on-one guidance to women and by extension to their families, thereby addressing a significant amount of unmet needs. Our overall aim is to reduce breast cancer disparities through early detection and continued support in order to extend the lives of women. Let's see, am I doing this? Okay. Nope, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry, people. And what makes Welch's a unique program, because it's community-based support and preclinical navigation. We address social determinants of health and navigate entire care continuum. What is breast cancer? Breast cancer is a disease in which malignant, which are called cancer cells, form in the tissues of the breast. The damaged cells can invade surrounding tissue, but with early detection and treatment, most people continue a normal life. So I have images of what the dark circles are, the ones that are the cancerous cells. Early detection means finding and diagnosing a disease earlier before symptoms develop. What we do know is that breast cancer is the most common cancer among women, except for skin cancer. About 1 in 8 women over her lifetime in the U.S. will develop invasive breast cancer. The American Cancer Society estimates that about 276,000 new cases of invasive breast cancer will be diagnosed in women. About 48,500 of very early stage or stage 0 cases of carcinoma will be diagnosed and is the earliest form of breast cancer. That's the earliest form. About 42,170 women will die from breast cancer, and about 2,620 new cases of invasive breast cancer will be diagnosed in men. So men, you do have breasts, yes. And so men are susceptible to having breast cancer. I tell people about Beyonce's father. He had breast cancer. And if you remember the movie Shaft, the actor Richard Roundtree. He recently just passed away, and it was cancer related, but the original cancer that he had was breast cancer when he was diagnosed a number of years ago. So men, it's just as important for you to check your chest wall, which are breasts, to because they check every so often as we do. I have in the back at my table, I have a breast form that does have lumps in it, of several lumps. So if you want to come to see what you're, even women, come by my table if you want to see what you're feeling for, because that's the biggest issue, is that you don't know what you're looking for and you're not doing it correctly, right? So that come by and see what you're looking for. So, it definitely will give you a little bit more enlightenment and make you more aware of what you're looking for. Who's being diagnosed with breast cancer? In recent years, the frequency with which a woman of color is diagnosed with breast cancer has increased. In the past, white women were diagnosed with breast cancer more often than black women, and that has changed. Black women are being diagnosed with breast cancer more often than white women, and this can be attributed, so that was a kind of a question you wanted to know, and this can be attributed to lack of medical coverage, barriers to early detection and screening, more advanced stage of the disease at diagnosis, and unequal access to improvements in cancer treatments. So I just want you to know that in the state of New York, whether you are a resident, a citizen, or not even if you're here, as an immigrant, undocumented, every woman, as long as they're at the age of 40 with no symptoms, is entitled to a mammogram screening every year in the state of New York. All right, so whether you're documented, undocumented, and that's one of the great things I like about my program at NYU, is because I can help any woman that needs a mammogram. So most times, health institutions, their programming is kind of revenue based. And what I like about this program is that it's not. That I can help you if you wanted to go to Mount Sinai, if you wanted to go to Columbia, if you wanted to go to Kings County, wherever you want to go, I can help you get seen there. And I try to make it convenient. They have these breast mobile screening units that go around the 5 boroughs. A lot of times I put a lot of women on there because it's convenient for them. So if the mammogram bus is going to be on your block tomorrow, and you're available to go tomorrow, then I would put you on there because it's convenient, and you don't have to go out your way to get to there. So we try to make, that's the difference about the program, is we try to make it convenient. You don't have to go out of your way to get the services that you need. And this is just some statistics that show the risk of developing within the ethnicities of race and the mortality. Risk factors. Risk factors are anything that can increase or decrease a person's chance of getting a disease such as cancer. 90% of all women with breast cancer have no identifiable risk factors. There are many known risk factors for breast cancer. Some of these can't be changed, but some can. And what are the breast cancer risk factors? The main risks for breast cancer are things you can't change. One is being a woman, getting older, and having certain genetic changes. Other risk factors include race and ethnicity, certain inherited genes, family history, breast density, certain benign conditions, and when you start your menstrual cycle before age 12 and going through menopause after the age of 55. So as I mentioned about the genetic changes and inherited genes and family history, we can't do anything about those things. But if you do your testing and screening at the time that you're supposed to, as well as do your diligence of self-breast exams, then early detection will make all the difference in the world in how your treatment is going to be, how it looks. So other risk factors are hormone therapy after menopause, alcohol intake, obesity, limited exercise, not having children, gender. As I said before, with men, they can develop it, but it's not as common. So it's 100 times more common in women. And it's important to remember that some women with breast cancer have no risk factors. Again, that's where making sure you look at your breasts every month and check. What can you do to lower the risk of breast cancer? Maintain a healthy weight, add exercise, limit your alcohol intake, limit menopausal hormone use, and breastfeed. So studies have shown that breastfeeding definitely minimizes your chances of getting breast cancer. Okay. So screening, you're looking for cancer before you have symptoms. Breast cancer is done with breast cancer screen. I'm just going to do some basic stuff I'm going to skim through now. Breast cancer screening is done with self-examination, clinical breast examination, that's when the doctor checks, mammograms, and in some cases, breast MRIs. And I know I've talked to a few women today, they talked about having ultrasounds and sonograms. So as we get older, do not be alarmed when they give you a call back after your screening and say, we need you to come back in and do some additional imaging. It just, your breasts change as you get older. So sometimes they might need to do something, give you extra, do more imaging for you. So screening starts at age 40. All women, as long as you are in good health, because I met someone that said, oh, I'm 73 or something, I don't have to do it no more. That's not true. All right? As long as you are in good health, because cancer doesn't say she's 73 and I'm not going to enter her body anymore. So as long as you're in good health and you have a talk with your doctor about it, because some doctors are telling women that they don't need to get it. And if they won't give you the prescription to get, the order to get it, then go to another doctor. Because as long as you're in good health and moving around every day and coming to Manhattan, to the New York Public Library, you should be getting your screening, okay? So I'm gonna, you could come see me because I know we're short on time. If you have any questions that you wanna ask me directly, come see me. I'll be in the back. And if you need a mammogram, I'm also doing appointments today as well. Well, because of the disparities, you know, we have a high immigrant population, undocumented. We don't go. A lot of us know that there's problems, and we just don't go see. And then when we finally go see, it's too far gone, and not having health insurance, you know. Is that among those who are undocumented, or women who are all women? Yep, because there are women that are insured that don't go. They know it's something wrong, and then when they finally go see what's wrong, it's usually too late. And the early detection, it makes the difference on the type of treatment you would have. All right, so come see me if you need any questions.
Thank you so much, Sheila. We've got about 30 minutes left. Stick with us. We've got a few exciting speakers. But you already know what time it is. Agnes, can you please help me out? I'm going to go quickly, so pay attention. 507-331. Yes, okay. Feel free to collect your prize at the back of the room. Let's see if we can get another. After this speaker, we're going to start raffling off our big prizes, the laptop, refurbished, donated laptop, and a new pair of Beats headphones that were donated. So stick around for those prizes next. 507-380. All right, then we got a second prize winner. All right, thanks everyone. We've got an exciting speaker up next. Up next, we have Dr. Raymond Peralta. Dr. Ray Peralta is a board-certified clinical specialist in orthopedic physical therapy and holds certifications in blood flow restriction training and the McKenzie method of mechanical diagnosis and therapy. He specializes in managing musculoskeletal pain and providing dedicated therapy for various body parts, including the back, neck, hip, knee, shoulder, and ankle. Dr. Peralta is equipped with a wealth of academic and practical experience and is a trusted name in the field of orthopedic physical therapy. Please welcome Dr. Peralta.
Good afternoon, folks. So how many of you guys have back pain after been sitting for a couple of hours? Look at those hands. So back pain is one of the most common musculoskeletal conditions I see in the clinic. So it's actually one of the leading causes of disability worldwide, low back pain. So here's a little graph here with some of the figures here. So you see 1990, low back pain and neck pain were leading causes of disability. 2005, 2015, still ranks as a top cause of disability. Time off work, seeking health care. What else we gotta know about low back pain? Medical costs, so it represents about 30% of direct social healthcare costs because of this orthopedic musculoskeletal pain. And about 40-60% of people with low back pain seek primary care consultations. So some of the risk factors for low back pain. A major one, sedentary behavior, lack of movement. So a lot of times low back pain is just sitting too long. A lot of us sit a lot. Now our digital ages, during the pandemic, in front of a computer, working from home. And these different, this postural stresses over time leads to the development of back pain. There's other factors too. So sometimes too much activity, so excessive activity, if you're someone who's bending a lot to lift things, maybe you're working in construction or some job lifting boxes repetitively, that may lead to back pain. Or you're a driver, you're driving around, maybe you're a taxi driver. You're spending over a lot of time driving in a car seat, that may contribute to back pain. And then other factors, things like depression, PTSD, and other psychosomatic issues can also contribute to back pain. So what's recommended as first-line care for low back pain? So a lot of people, the general public believes that you need medication, drugs, opioids. But actually, that's not recommended by guidelines. We actually, if you look at the chart with the green, we want exercise therapy as first-line treatment for low back pain. Medications can be used, but it shouldn't be the primary thing we rely on when you're trying to recover from back pain. So again, that's that self-management. And there's exercises that physical therapists can teach you to self-manage a majority of back pain. Sometimes you need injections and sometimes you medications, but again, that should not be the first-line treatment for back pain. So here's some information on telehealth, so rehabilitation, so video. So a lot of people think that they need to go in person to see a physical therapist, but you could actually also do it online. You could also do it over video. You could do a telehealth consult. A lot of organizations have services where a person can actually seek healthcare physical therapy services online through video. So this study showed that people with back pain who had a consult online who responded to this type of exercise called back extension, we'll talk about that in a moment, had a 50% lower healthcare costs and had the same effect as people who were seen in clinic in person. So you could actually get effective care online over video. Here's another kind of rapid overview of just physical therapy in different domains, not just low back pain, but arthritis, hip, knee replacement, neck pain, multiple sclerosis, cardiac, or even pulmonary rehabilitation can also be done on telehealth or telerehab. So it's pretty impactful, the type of results you could obtain on a video or electronic platform. So I'm going to talk to you about a specialty area of physical therapy called the McKenzie method. It's a system of physical therapy called McKenzie method of assessment, classification, and treatment. So with the McKenzie system, I'm a diplomat in the system, and it allows me to treat my patients effectively. So I'm able to assess the type of pain they have, whether it's back pain, neck pain, or hip pain, or shoulder pain, and then give them a treatment that's really tailored to the individual, to the person here. And there's different classifications based on their, let's say, back pain or whatever the joint pain condition is. Here in the McKenzie system, they have things called derangements based on a symptomatic presentation, a dysfunction or postural syndrome. So again, postural is also pretty common. We all get postural. Then we got other subgroups. People may have had surgery, post-surgery pain, SIJ, stenosis, or if you're a trauma, an accident, chronic pain syndrome, inflammatory, radiculopathies, or serious pathology. So the key to effective treatment, and most physical therapists will agree, is self-management. We want to empower people to take we teach them the right exercises to do so they could take that at home or wherever they're at, so they're able to perform them. Low cost, minimal equipment, you don't have to go to join a fancy gym, things you could do at home. So what are these things? It could be positions, it could be just the way you're sitting in a chair, and it applies to different parts of your body, whether you have shoulder pain, you have elbow pain, knee pain, there's different position or movements you may be able to do. About majority of people can find relief with different movements or positions or postures or activities they can adopt to get relief to musculoskeletal pain. Here's another study. When they implemented this mechanical MDT method in clinics, they found a 50% reduction of the amount of people who got surgery. So back in the 90s here in the country of Denmark, they saw a reduction of people who were seeking surgery by implementing the McKenzie method of this self-care, exercise-based approach. This other study showed about 96 patients who were due for surgery, who were classified as non-responders. Initially, they underwent a steroid injection to the back and then got a McKenzie method assessment, this type of physical therapy, and about almost 80% of them resolved. They were able to avoid surgery. So it is possible to avoid surgery. Don't think you need surgery right away. You may do injection and then get an assessment by a physical therapist and someone who's trained the McKenzie method, and you could avoid surgery. Only 22% of these people ended up getting surgery afterwards, but initially, it's pretty powerful how they were able to avoid surgery, like 80% of these people. Next, there's another study on this type of physical therapy versus community care. So in the MDT method led to a 50% reduction in amount of imaging, 40% reduction in injections, and about 78% reduction in amount of surgery, just again through this holistic MDT McKenzie method approach. And again, this was done in low back pain, but I've seen this also myself as a clinician working with my patients. I've actually had patients with knee arthritis who were able to avoid surgery with just some simple exercises. So it's very powerful stuff. There's another study here. Looked at, doesn't matter which exercise. This is a study done in 2004, because sometimes people are like, what exercise do I do? It does matter which exercise you do, and that's why I do recommend working with a physical therapist, someone who's trained in the McKenzie method. So when you're doing the exercise that's matched to your condition, you're going to get better. So in the match group, like that big green diagram shows, almost like 94% of the people got better. The people who got the opposite exercise, the incorrect group, 60% of them didn't see any change because they were not doing the right exercise. Some of them even got worse. And even the ones who are finding some of the research guidelines, 40% of them didn't get better. So it does matter the exercise you do, and it does, so I do recommend not just going on Googling whatever exercise comes up for back pain, but working with a professional to help you find the right exercise for you. So how does the method work? So we look at posture. So one thing is a little simple test. So you can even do this for yourself when you're sitting in a chair, like, is my back, does it hurt more when I'm slouching or sitting erect? About 60% of people feel better when they're sitting erect, but some people feel better when they slouch. So that's a simple little test that we do. I could do that online over video or in person. Other type of test we look at is movement. So you can even do this at home for yourself, like, is my back pretty stiff? Can I bend over, touch my toes? So these are basic movements of daily living for your back, and you could do this for yourself, like, do I have pain in a certain direction? And this is what a physical therapist who's trained in the McKenzie method is looking at when they're assessing you. So this kind of just looks at some of the big movements for the back: flexion and standing, fingertips to toes, extension and standing, bending backwards. You're monitoring for stiffness, for pain, if pain's shooting down the leg. This flexion and line, knees to chest, extension and line, prone press up. And some of these movements may look similar to other things you may have done in the past. If you cross-trained in yoga or Pilates, they may look like similar movements. Another movement here is side glide and standing. And these are movements are both assessments, but it could also be treatments, depending if this is the right exercise for your back pain condition. And then these are the different presentations. The derangement is just an obstruction to movement. So this is like a back that's kind of stiff, that doesn't want to move in one direction. And people with a derangement can be rapidly reversible. So they may have the condition where we give up the right exercise. It's called the directional preference. And they may be able to get rapid improvement within just a few weeks. And a lot of these patients in this category are able to avoid surgery. How does back pain present? So it could be in your back, localized. It could be going down the legs, asymmetrical above the knee or below the knee. So this might look like sciatica, and there's different presentations. And some of these patients do respond beautifully to the right exercise. So centralization is a phenomenon. So where the pain, we're doing the right exercise, and the pain gets out of the leg into the back, and we could do that with the McKenzie method. Another one is peripheralization. So if you're doing the wrong exercise and it starts shooting down the leg, that's probably the wrong thing to do, and hopefully your physical therapist captures that and educates you to avoid doing the wrong exercise. So directional preference just means doing the right exercise for you, for your condition, whether it's a repeated movement or sustained, to get lasting improvements in your symptoms or mechanics. Mechanics just means your motion, your function, your ability to do your daily life activities. So directional preference. Depending on the exercise you do, one exercise may make you feel better, another exercise may make you feel worse. And again, we're looking for the exercise that makes you feel better in those people in that derangement category. And then there's other mechanical syndromes, dysfunction, that's just impaired soft tissue like scar tissue in a joint. So sometimes you may get scar tissue in your back and it's just a little stiff, and we stretch out that scar tissue. And contraction, scarring. You can even have scar tissue in a nerve root. And then we got postural syndrome. That's, hey, you're just sitting too long and your neck starts hurting or your back starts hurting. What we do, we just kind of correct your posture and get you moving, get the blood flow going. Because a lot of times with postural syndrome, it's just a lack of blood flow to that body part. You just got to get more blood in the system. So what do we know how prevention about back pain? So this study here, systematic review in 2018, showed exercise is one of the only things shown to reduce the risk of future back pain. So exercise could be something as simple as going for a brisk walk, going out for like a 30-minute walk daily. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes all at once. You could do 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening. And also do some strength training. So strength training doesn't even have to go to the gym. You could do some chair squats, wall push-ups. That's strength training, 2 to 3 times a week. Posture. Posture, make sure you have good posture and a balance of movements. Make sure you're able to move your spine in all directions. And if there was an exercise that helped you reduce your pain, continue with your specific exercise. And this is from the ACSM and CDSM, what I just talked about earlier. The take-home message is all you take home from this today. Make sure you're moving your body. Get 150 minutes of exercise per week, which is about 30 minutes 5 days a week. And again, that could be walking, that could be biking, swimming, dancing, whatever activity you find enjoyable, that you enjoy doing, because enjoyment's also very important. And then some trying to strength training, some muscle building activity, at least 2 times a week. You're just kind of building the muscle again, wall push-ups, chair squats, calf raises, things like that. Oh, and if you're a reader, there's books you can get. These books are relatively inexpensive. You can check if the New York Public Library carries these books. There's McKenzie Method, Treat Your Own Back, Treat Your Own Knee, Treat Your Own Neck, Shoulder, and Hip, and Ankle. And if you want any more information, you go on the McKenzie Institute's website at themckenzieinstitute.org, or if you want to contact me directly, that's my Instagram handle, Dr. Ray Peralta. You can find me on Instagram or my social media or also Facebook. And feel free, there's my QR code. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peralta. That was very informative and helpful. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're almost there to the end of the program. We have a few more speakers, but I'm just going to do it. After our next speaker, we'll be announcing the winner of our headphones, so please stay tuned. But first, 507-326. Let's go. Please find your way to the back of the room. And then 507-339. Okay, sorry. Thank you. All right, very good. We've got two winners. Our next 2 winners will be really big, so stay tuned. All right, I'm excited to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Lisa Menon, who is the project manager of the Access to Telehealth project within the Immigrant Health and Cancer Disparity Service at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. She has a passion for health equity and healthcare policy, which initially was developed while completing her undergraduate studies in political science at Stony Brook University. She is currently pursuing a master's in healthcare administration at Marist College with the ultimate goal of addressing structural disparities in access to care for many of the populations that her department serves. Please welcome Lisa Menon.
Thank you, Walter, and thank you to the New York Public Library. This has been an amazing set of speakers so far, so I'm really excited to present my work today. Okay, so just to give a bit of background, so the project I'm going to be discussing is the Access to Telehealth for Underserved Breast Cancer Patients program, which also stands for ACT. But before that, I wanted to give just a bit of background. So I work within the Immigrant Health and Cancer Disparities Service at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And so our basic mission is to serve and address health disparities and cancer disparities for medically underserved folks in New York City, and that could include minorities, immigrants, including undocumented immigrants, as well as folks from low socioeconomic backgrounds. So the Immigrant Health and Cancer Disparities Service, IHCD, also has a program within it, which is called the Integrated Cancer Care Access Network. And so what they try to do is serve the essential needs for cancer patients across New York City, not just in Memorial Sloan Kettering, but also in New York City Health and Hospitals locations, safety net clinics, and Montefiore. So with that in mind, we decided during the pandemic to kind of survey some of our patients and community members that we normally serve to see how telehealth was viewed by them and what sort of access to telehealth and technology they had. And so through that, the streaming study was born. And so basically 56% thought video visits were inferior to in-person visits. And we also found that over 10% of the cancer patients that we surveyed at the time, I think it was about 75 of them, needed help with or devices for a regular telehealth visit. And we also found that 42% lacked home internet for video telehealth. So through that, we formed the ACT project, and we have a few different goals. One is to improve healthcare access through patient portal and telehealth capable devices, and providing those to them and navigating folks to home internet service. Our other goal is to build patient portal telehealth visit knowledge and skills through education in a culturally and linguistically conducive way, to increase diverse breast cancer patients portal and telehealth visit uptake, and then lastly, to create a sustainable infrastructure with a lot of our community partners. So that's community-based organizations, clinical organizations, and government partners. So here are our general methods. A lot of it is based initially with our partnerships and with our multilingual ACT navigation team. So we have a bunch of folks who are bilingual in Spanish and Russian and other languages within the service. And we also connect folks to interpreter services when they need them. All of our program materials are also available in multiple languages, including Spanish, English, Russian, Mandarin, Bengali, and I think I'm missing one, French and Arabic. And then after we provide all of this navigation, we assess impact at 2 months and 6 months. And so what we're trying to look at is if we can increase patient empowerment and patient-provider communication, quality of life, comfort using their devices, and if they can get to use the patient portal or telehealth for their first time. And ultimately, we hope to improve program and policy development. So in order to be eligible for ACT, there are 3 main criteria. You would need to be a breast cancer patient, you would need to be undergoing active treatment or active follow-up, and you would need to identify telehealth, internet access, or technology navigation as a need. And again, that includes, if folks are not able to pay for their home internet or their cell phone bills, or if they don't have a device to conduct telehealth, we will help with all of that. And then we recruit at multiple locations across New York City and Long Island. There's 15 on the map. So again, that's Memorial Sloan Kettering, but also a number of New York City Health and Hospitals facilities and safety net institutions, where we also run our medically tailored food pantry program that's done through the service and through the Integrated Cancer Care Access Network. We also do clinic outreach at the Breast and Imaging Center at Memorial Sloan Kettering and at MSK's Ralph Lauren Center. And then lastly, we accept referrals from community-based organizations and also other groups, physicians, social workers, or if a patient just hears about the program and is interested, we will follow up on those. So we help in a number of ways. As I mentioned, we train folks how to use telehealth. However, the patient portal is also a huge factor and a huge focal point that we concentrate on when we're navigating patients. So like my chart, which Walter spoke about before, as well as my MSK for Memorial Sloan Kettering patients. So we'll teach them how to use it, how to send messages, how to check their results, et cetera. We help connect folks to the Affordable Connectivity Program to get free or low-cost internet services. We'll help them get a device. So through our partnership with Memorial Sloan Kettering's IT department, we provide refurbished laptops and smartphones, as well as tablets, to patients for them to keep even after the project is done. We also help folks with upcoming telehealth appointments. We'll teach them how to set up their appointments, how to navigate any questions that they may have when they speak to their providers. And then lastly, we help with essential needs as well. So we realize that telehealth is interrelated with a lot of other essential needs that patients might have. So we also help them with food assistance, legal assistance, financial assistance, transportation, and also make referrals for housing and other assistance. So just to give a quick look at participant demographics, so this is 398 patients that has actually gone up since the past couple of weeks, but a lot of our patients, almost half of them, are Black or African American. We have a fair amount of cancer stages and ages represented, as you can see here. We have 28% are Spanish speaking, and then 36% are Hispanic or Latinx. So just to do a quick overview of outcomes. So we have screened 660 patients so far. We have educated or reached about 10,000 patients since the start of our project. We have enrolled 398, as I mentioned, distributed 346 devices, and then assisted 186 patients enroll into the Affordable Connectivity Program. And then as you can see here, we assess impact at 2 months and 6 months. And so there's consistently high levels of patient satisfaction with care, provider trust, saying that ACT resources help them lead a more comfortable life. And then lastly, feeling more comfortable using an electronic device for telehealth. But one point that I wanted to kind of just point out was the percentage of participants who were extremely confident in getting their doctors to take their concerns seriously. The groups that we usually add to our project have had historical medical mistrust issues. And so the fact that they feel confident enough to be able to speak with their doctors and communicate with them openly and also get their concerns addressed is extremely significant. And as you can see, it's pretty high at the 2-month point and then is even higher at the 6-month point. So that's definitely something that we're proud of. And then lastly, we see that about 80% of the patients who had never utilized the patient portal pre-ACT ended up using them. And then we have slightly less in terms of folks who have done their first time telehealth audio or video visits. But a lot of that is based on the providers or the institutions, how prevalent telehealth is with them, and as well as the patients themselves. Because a lot of times if they're coming in just to do blood work, they'll obviously be in person for a visit as well. So I think that the patient stories speak the most towards the impact of ACT. So as you can see here, we have one patient who was diagnosed in early 2022. She received an iPhone from us and started using the patient portal, MyChart. And then she was actually still using it during both of her follow-up calls and has since completed 8 telehealth phone calls since receiving our navigation and our services, which is a great outcome. And then we also have another patient who is a retired supervisor living in the Bronx with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. And so we gave her extensive navigation on her laptop, also how to use the patient portal. And then she sent an email to her ACT navigator, who she is still very close with. So as you can see, she says, "You were an angel who walked into my life that day. I'm sitting on my new laptop with all smiles and excitement. This has been hard to deal with, but you've eased some of my emotional pain." So a lot of really great testimonials and kind of just a good product of the work that we have been doing. So in terms of next steps, we are hoping to expand beyond breast cancer to other cancer types. And we also want to institutionalize device refurbishing donations and programs across other institutions, similar to what we've done at Memorial Sloan Kettering. So far, we have had 400 smartphones and 140 laptops that have been donated to us. So we're very thankful to MSK's Digits Department for doing that. We hope to also do a randomized controlled trial soon to document outcomes. We also have just started a remote telemonitoring pilot with 100 breast cancer patients. And we're doing that by partnering with MSK Cardiology and Queens Hospital, who I know some folks have spoken about today. And then we also hope to ultimately, as I mentioned before, influence policy on the city and state level through a policy working group, which we are currently expanding. I want to just give a huge shout out to a lot of our ACT partners here. As you can see, Queens Library is actually one of our very good partners in terms of being able to provide loanable hotspots and laptops. And all of these organizations have been great and so instrumental in moving our project along, and the New York City Health and Hospitals facilities and just everybody. Thank you so much for that. And then lastly, a huge thank you to these folks that are listed here who this project could not have happened without. So the Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation funds our project. So a huge thank you to them. Francesca Gainey, who is the chief of the Immigrant Health and Cancer Disparity Service, and also the project director of ACT. The Digits Department, which I mentioned before, MSK's IT department, everyone at the Immigrant Health and Disparity Service and MSK, and then a special shout out to our ACT navigators who are all multilingual and literally will move mountains to help our patients. So a special shout out to Leslie Ann, Taisha, and Maria, who are part of our current team. So thank you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. We actually haven't looked at that specifically. I know that NYU definitely has a World Trade Center cancer program, but primarily we recruit at Memorial Sloan Kettering and the New York City Health and Hospitals facilities. But as we expand our project to also include other cancer types, that is something that we potentially are going to look into as well and see a linkage between that. Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. That was wonderful. All right, the moment you've been waiting for. Let's give away some headphones. 507-355. They missed out. All right. 507-364. 507-384. Let's go. Congratulations. You can come to Agnes and she'll share those headphones with you. All right. We've got one more speaker that's going to share some information with us. I want to welcome Bryce W. Killingsworth. Bryce is a medical student at the Columbia University Vagelos College of Physicians and Surgeons, and along with Lauren Tucker and Jillian Wright, co-directs the Columbia Student Medical Outreach Free Clinic located in Washington Heights. Please welcome Bryce to the stage.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. I'm just going to give a brief sort of intro about who we are so you can sort of get to know us as we're up in Washington Heights. Maybe if you're not from that area, you might be less familiar. And then if you have any questions or know anybody who might benefit from our services, just come let me know. I have contact information back there, the table with all the flyers. I have a big flyer as well with our information about the services we provide and an email. You can just send us an email about someone who might need help, and we'll get to them. And I just have some slides here. This is just an idea of where we're located. Well, first off, actually, I just want to say thanks to the New York Public Library team for inviting us here. I think it's been a super cool event. There's been like so many different talks that are like so different, but there's been something from all the talks that I think I can relate to and actually influence our clinic. So it's really cool to be here. And like I said, we're about an hour on the A train away north, so it's nice to come down and be a little more central in New York City, meet people from all the other boroughs, and see what everyone's doing in different parts of the city. I want to sort of start with just sort of some of the highlights of our clinic. So we're a student-run free clinic. The benefits of that is that compared to maybe a busy primary care clinic at a busy site in New York City, patients get a tremendous amount of time, usually about like 45-minute to an hour visits with our students. We have a faculty at Columbia who do like the medical supervising to make sure they are getting the medically correct care. But I think our patients really do get sort of like the ideal primary care experience in that we're able to talk about every aspect. We don't make them choose one thing. They don't have to just talk about their headaches. We can talk about headaches, take time with that, and then talk about cancer screening, talk about sexual health, talk about mental well-being. And so I think sometimes if anything, our clinics go a little bit long. Sometimes our patients are over 2 hours and it starts saying, do you have work you have to get to or something? But I think overall, it's really nice, especially as a medical student, being faced with sort of seeing just the tremendous sort of time pressure that physicians are faced with, seeing so many patients in an hour. It's really, really been nice to have this experience of sort of like the ideal version of primary care. So I'm very grateful for that, and for our patients for being understanding that we're students, and so that's been really, really nice. In terms of some other aspects, so our clinic patients are entirely undocumented. Here's just some statistics about, maybe you can look at those as I speak a little bit. Because in order to get care through charity care programs at institutions, they have to sign a waiver saying they're actually ineligible for Medicaid. I think it's been really interesting to learn about, like in New York State, there are undocumented people who are officially unable to get insurance. There's no amount of access or outreach that can ever get them true medical insurance with the current legislation. There are states, actually, that I just saw news that this, with legislation in Washington State, they're actually going to make it so that undocumented people can enroll in the state Medicaid, so in the version of New York State Medicaid. So maybe with activism and future efforts, that could be something that happens in New York as well. But for now, these are people who will never have true insurance and have a tremendous need. And because, by definition, they're undocumented, they've come here through sort of tremendous journeys sometimes and faced like, incredibly challenging decisions to leave family for life, to make a better life for themselves, to send money home. They have incredible like psychosocial stressors as well. So not only do they not have insurance, but they have sort of unmet medical needs and a lot of like psychiatric needs and just stress. And so I think we're able to provide care for this very specific population of patients. Whereas most of like New York Presbyterian, Columbia sites will see like legal residents, people with Medicaid. We are able to care for those that are undocumented and therefore cannot have state Medicaid. We do, during COVID, we went to telehealth, but as I think for the breast cancer, or the MSK lecture sort of mentioned, a lot of patients don't like telehealth, and so we put a lot of effort into going back to 100% in-person visits. So we have 5 clinics every month. We have them only in like non-work hours because almost all our patients are like food service workers, either delivery bike riders or working in delis, and so they're not going to be able to leave. By definition, if you're undocumented, you don't have a work permit, so you can't ask your boss for sick leave because you don't have any legal rights. And so our clinic hours are only after work and on the weekends, where they don't have to take time off. And so that's, I think, a lot of our experience is just learning about who our patients are to provide the care they need. I think one area of a lot more work we could do is just providing more social services. I think sometimes as people who like medical students, like learning how to care for people medically, sometimes we don't have time to ask them about their immigration status and how we can help. And maybe we're even scared that might sort of scare away some of these patients. A lot of these patients will be scared to seek programs because there is an idea that if you put your name down on a list, that could become an issue for yourself in the future. for very like real reasons, like in the Trump administration, like the language of being like a public charge as being a negative mark against your future immigration case was like was disseminated officially by the federal government. And so it's not just like rumors that there might be issues with seeking assistance, but there's actual reason to believe that. And so I think for those reasons, sometimes as medical students, we get a little scared to approach those issues. And so it's really great. I've got to meet some people from like Public Health Solutions in the back and other organizations here who are like experts at dealing with these people who have sort of sensitive histories and might be scared to approach providers about their immigration status, but are really experts at getting them the care they need. And so that's been really great about coming here as well. And just sort of trying to, providing the social services they need is sort of, it's great that we take care of their medical issues, and they do have very severe medical issues sometimes. A lot of like hospitalizations that we provide care for immediately after hospitalization, but thinking about their bigger picture and like, these people are gonna be here for decades, maybe the rest of their life. Like what's the actual trajectory of their care gonna be like if they don't have insurance, and trying to work on getting them insurance has been something that I think we could work on as like a student-run free clinic in the future. Just a few other highlights that I think is really interesting about our clinic. We actually like very much recruit Spanish-speaking students from our university to make sure that I'd say the majority of clinical encounters at our clinic are done with at least one person who speaks Spanish fluently, and so that person can do the speaking, because no matter how good your interpreter is, like you're never going to give someone the health justice they need if you're learning information about your very personal health and through a telephone. And so I think that's something that we continue to work on. And then we also put a lot of effort into triaging. So we have really, I think, a phenomenal like mental health component of our clinic, where anybody who comes in with depression, anxiety, which often gets to the point of suicidality for people with really immense stressors, not only are we able to provide them care for mild depression, anxiety, but if we feel like they have severe mental illness, we put the effort into getting them to the care they need. So we're not going to hang up the phone and say, we can't help you, your issue is too severe. We'll tell them that NYC Health and Hospital Harlem has like inpatient psychiatric help. There's tons of mobile psych crisis units. And so we put a lot of effort into making sure we sort of connect the dots, because that's where a lot of healthcare gets lost. Someone gets a discharge appointment from follow-up, they don't make it, and then they're gonna go back to the hospital. And so I think because we're students and we're not doctors yet, and we have the time, we're able to call them and say, hey, like, what happened? Why didn't you go? And so I think that's been really rewarding, and hopefully that model could get incorporated into more of medical care. However, there are limitations with just the sheer volume. That's the main thoughts. You can definitely come up to me if you have any questions. We have some flyers in the back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bryce. And thanks everyone for coming out today. We have one final speaker who's going to share some information. Could you please welcome Andrew Afrifa? Andrew is here representing the All of Us program. Andrew has an MA in biology and is a research coordinator at the Weill Cornell Medicine. All of Us is a program from the National Institute of Health to advance medical research and improve healthcare through free genetic testing and precision medicine. So please welcome Andrew to the stage.
Hello? Oh, perfect. So when a patient comes to the hospital, we're not treating the specific condition, or treating the patient. So when two patients present and have a similar condition or the same condition, it doesn't mean that we could just give them the same treatment. We have to know the patient and understand how their body works. At the All of Us research program, we're focusing on precision medicine and personalized medicine to break the mold of the one-size-fits-all approach to medicine that some may take. And to do this, we're asking people of all demographics, all backgrounds, and all health conditions and all races to participate in the program. And if you choose to participate in the program, not only would you be helping to advance medical research and improving healthcare, but you'd also gain valuable research that improves your own health and equip yourself with knowledge such as your own ancestry, how medicine affects your body, and how diseases may affect you. And also speaking with genetic counselors to know what you can do to actually prevent these things from happening and have a more progressive life. And if you're interested in knowing more about the program or speaking to us, you could see us right in the back at the Oliver's Research Program, or always give our number a call. Thank you all.
Yes, please speak. Oh my gosh, please speak to Andrew in the back of the room. He would love to hear from you. That brings us to the end of today's program. We're about to announce our final giveaway winner. But before I do that, I want to thank you very much for coming today, and thank you very much for sticking around. We hope you had a great time here at the New York Public Library. And like I mentioned earlier, your support is extremely beneficial, extremely helpful, especially in the wake of the budget cuts we are facing. So your attendance means a lot. We hope you gain something from today, and we hope you stay in touch with us. We have classes all the time. We also have books and things like that. So check us out downstairs. We have technology training classes on all sorts of topics. We can teach you how to code. We can teach you how to use Microsoft Office. We can teach you how to use the computer and the mouse, okay? We are here to help you, so please use our resources. Please engage with us in the back of the room. Take some flyers. Tell your friends about the New York Public Library, and we'll see you next time. But let's make someone really happy and give them a donated, refurbished laptop. Drum roll, please. Thank you. 507366. There we go. Congratulations. We've got your laptop here at the front of the room. Thanks so much for coming. We'll see you next time.